I've been recently smitten by McLarens. They're absolutely beautiful automobiles, and honestly, I don't have much choice considering they're forced on our throats every day because pretty much every automotive YouTuber has one. And my top favorite McLarens are as follows: the McLaren F1, the McLaren Speedtail, the McLaren 720S, the McLaren P1, and finally, the McLaren 720S again, but in blue. And in case you couldn't tell, my favorite McLaren of all time is the 720S, so I bought one, and this is the only one that I could afford. But anyways, an up-and-coming YouTuber named Tavarish bought a McLaren P1, the modern holy grail of McLarens, except for one teeny little problem. In order to get one cheaper than the $2 million price tag, he decided to get one that needed a little work. And by a little work, I mean a ton of work. He bought a flooded one. It was destroyed in one of Florida's hurricanes. Which one, I don't remember. Just pick a random one. It was flooded so badly that it literally floated away out of someone's garage and found itself on top of a toilet. I'm not making that up. The car was trying to tell us something. But this didn't stop Tavarish. He bought the car for $575,000, which in my opinion is a lot of money. My house and neighbors' houses combined aren't 600 grand. But anyways, this was purchased after his 675 LT McLaren, so he has two, and this is how you make money on YouTube, guys. Either you fix really expensive stuff, or you destroy really expensive stuff. Welcome to YouTube. And if you remember a prior video, I took the 12-volt battery, which is $8,000, and I was able to rebuild it for a fraction of the price. And I don't mean a fraction like half or a third. I mean a fraction like I rebuilt the entire battery for a few $100s. And the video was surprisingly popular. So when Tavarish had us come down to move his P1 high voltage battery, I knew we were in for a treat. It is a $150,000 plus battery, and after lowering it out of the car, we found out that it caught fire and burned inside the McLaren, which is amazing, and here's why. The battery burned inside of the car, and you wouldn't have known this. The carbon tub did an amazing job containing it, but this leaves the question. What do you do with the battery that's burned beyond all recognition in the car? And how do you bring it back to life? And are there any parts that are still salvageable? Well, let's take it apart and see what's inside, shall we? But wait. Before we do that, I want to let everyone know that the Audi e-tron is for sale. We fixed it months ago and I put over 1,000 miles on it, but it doesn't make any sense for me to keep because I have the Rivian and everything is fine with it. Audi checked it over and did all the software updates. It has only 3,000 miles and it's for sale for $50,000, which is the least expensive in the nation. It's a slick car. I just don't need it. I think it's really good looking, but it kind of is what it is. If you're interested in a really cool and quick car with low mileage, just send me an email. And sending me an email to buy this car is super easy. And you know what's even easier than buying my e-tron? Making a website with Squarespace. It's easy to claim a domain or URL like www.the-e-tron's little brother Porsche Taycan that no one talks about.com or www.50,000 for the cheapest e-tron in the United States with the lowest miles is a great deal.com. Then you can create a custom site that matches your style and enthusiasm. Check out these page templates because they'll make your web page look better than the look people give you when you tell them you paid almost $70,000 for a Performance Model 3 only a few years ago. Head to www.squarespace.com/rebuilds to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using the code in the description box below. Shout out to Squarespace for making platforms for people's passions, no matter what the cost. Let's get into this.
Freddie, I want you to talk about McLaren forums and the things you've been seeing on the McLaren forums.
See, one of the things I love about McLaren forums is that everyone gets a chance to form their opinion on things they know nothing about. So,
gotcha. Give me an example.
So whenever they talk about like stuff like this car or my other McLaren that I've rebuilt, they seem to have a working knowledge of what I've done.
Do you think they've ever taken apart their McLarens before?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Many of them
a lot though.
I don't even think they own McLarens, but
yes.
I think it's a lot like.
I also joined McLaren forums. I had no proof of ownership needed.
Right. Yeah,
so most of them don't own McLarens.
Of course. So it's a lot like N64 versus PlayStation.
Yeah.
And you're locked in because your mom gave you that for Christmas. And these guys, they saved up for so long trying to get their McLarens for 144 a month finance that, they have, that's the hill they die on.
Yes.
And if a car needs work, it goes straight to the dealer.
McLaren, yep.
So if it doesn't go straight to the dealer, you're doing something wrong.
We do real things here.
Here on the Rich Rebuilds channel.
This video will be scrubbed if the car does not in fact run.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the car's gonna.
We will not be this car.
We'll push it into traffic and do an insurance claim. Perched on what looked like a toilet. The guy that had it, the tow truck driver, ran it on whatever that was and just messed this up, dented this. But what's cool is that the electrolysis, when the battery is discharging, you can see right here, like all the pitting that happened right here. And then it actually made holes in the oil tank. So the oil tank is leaking. Even though I took all the oil out of the oil tank, apparently that wasn't the case. So,
like they say, Freddie, if it's leaking oil, it still has oil.
Still has oil.
Yes! Yes! Woo! Woo! Oh! Oh, that feels so good.
One more time. What time is it?
It's late, man. I mean, Rich is a lot stronger than I am. All right, remember, lift with your back, not with your legs.
Yeah, with that twisty, jerky motion.
Yeah, just go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That wasn't so bad.
Round fish don't eat much, right?
All right, yeah, that's fine.
It's real top heavy. So.
Oh, I should have.
Yeah, 0 volts. 0 volts.
This was fun.
Okay. There's no voltage in it. There's no voltage in this. So I can touch it, and it's gonna beat. I'm not gonna touch it. It's still like a loaded gun. Look at that. That was great.
Sure. Let's do the thing again. Get some more air on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then plug it away.
All right. So what components do we have in this, Mr. Richard T. Rebuilds?
Well, Travis and I are looking at this, and some things look familiar already. We have 2 gigavac contactors.
Which ones are those? Make sure to touch them with your fingers.
These two right here. Say gigavac on your fingers first.
Okay.
We just have some logic on top. Some
logic.
Some logic, meaning how it controls power going in and out of the battery.
Okay.
We have some heavy duty fuses on the bus bars.
Okay. Do those blow?
We could test them and see continuity.
I'm gonna go ahead and say they blew, but what? All right. So all the fuses are good.
Yeah.
Which means that they didn't blow. which means that they didn't do their job.
China.
If you love
deserves-
China so much, why don't you marry it?
I
don't even know if he's aware he's doing this. Ethan just like asks really good questions and he brings up really good points in like the most kind of aloof way. Well, it's media propaganda that's made us appreciate Taiwan, and look, we don't even care about Yemen and blah 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 blah. And Ethan's like, but don't we like trade a lot more with Taiwan? So isn't that kind of normal? He just happens to like so nonchalantly cut the bullshit, ask the best kind of question. It's really funny, drunken master style.
What about in Europe? They seem to care about Ukraine a lot.
It's the similar principle.
How are you going to say it's the media for Europe caring about a European country being invaded by the former Soviet Union? Bro.
Hold on.
In
Ukraine borders Europe. Hold on, because I'm being double teamed now, so I need to speak.
Okay.
Of course it is. That is really not sincere.
You jumped to that.
No, he didn't jump to that. Ethan brought up exactly what is Ethan like. Sometimes I feel like Ethan is like razor sharp. Ethan is correct. That was the implication. Hassan was implying that the only reason we give a about Ukraine is because the media manufactured our interest there. And he's bringing it up, and this guy's like, no, you jumped to that. No, he didn't jump to that at all. That was exactly what Hassan's implication was.
I am saying that.
Yeah,
I think,
he is saying.
And now Hassan literally is saying that.
I mean,
No, not allowed to, but Hassan was saying.
What do we got going on here? Our good friend Hassan and our good friend Ethan.
the whole like leave Taiwan, or first leave Taiwan alone and then give them all guns.
I understand that I am exceptionally lazy when it comes to like hair. Like I've been doing my hair the same way since I've been a kid, right? But is Hassan like normal for changing hairstyles or abnormal? I feel like Hassan has a new hairstyle beard setup like every 3 months. Am I crazy? Is that normal? Do people really change up that much, or is it just he just like change up a lot? It's a rich person thing. Yes,
like,
it's
make
normal.
Taiwan like
Changing hairstyles normal. It's normal for rich people.
like America, where every person in Taiwan has a weapon.
How do we feel about Taiwan, Hassan? China or not
Taiwan?
China? Or is it China or not China?
That's the American policy. Whatever the American policy is, whatever the American perspective
What's your
is.
opinion? You really won't say?
No, I'm saying is.
Oh no, is Ethan really gonna lean into him on this? So Hassan, his commie side wants to say like Taiwan basically, but just because Taiwan is a U.S. ally, and he's gonna say like xenophobia or whatever, or we don't like China, so that's the only reason we care about Taiwan, and they're just a proxy, blah blah blah. But he can't say that because that's actually an edgy opinion that is a little bit too edgy, because support for Taiwan is generally popular in media. So it's going to be hard for him, I think, to take that position of supporting Taiwan or of opposing Taiwan, because that's actually not, he would have to actually have a backbone to be edgy and have that position. Let's see what he does.
So one country, two systems, you know?
No, it's not. It's two different countries.
Really?
Taiwan and China.
Is that according to American foreign policy?
No, what's your opinion? What's your opinion? Taiwan independent?
My opinion on Taiwan is that Taiwan is the Chinese concept of Taiwan should remain in the hands of the people in Taiwan who
So therefore
believe
it's independent.
who for the record, for the most part, just believe to not disrupt the ongoing relations with.
Why are you
China.
being so carefully footed around
Because I know that there's going to be a
Sensitive
subreddit.
issue.
There's going to be a subreddit post with like a million f***ing comments being like, Hassan wants everyone in Taiwan to be killed because he loves China. He's a Xi Jinping.
That's what I heard.
That's what I just. It's already over. You asked me that question, like in jest, and it's gonna.
No,
go
I was
there.
genuinely curious what you think about it.
I think that. I think that overall, it's contemporary history is complex. At the end of the day, if the Taiwanese citizens would ever put this up for a vote and we're like, we want to be an independent nation, it's up to them. You know what I mean?
They
You
already
can't.
done that?
No. There is no.
No, what Hassan said is true from everything I've read. That most.
Can you imagine being this cowardly with any of your opinions? Yeah, the thing that frustrates me the most too is, I've said this before, there's this concept that exists right now in progressive media about being edgy, but it's like the most politically safe edgy possible. So like Hassan will come out and be like, America deserved 9/11, and it seems edgy, but it's not really, right? Young people progressive don't think that. But like to take an actual strong stance on Taiwan, well now he actually has that might cause him to touch some flack, so he'll walk really hard on this. And it's like, bro, the same guy that can't, like the same guy that defended saying America deserved 9/11, restaurants on Taiwan. The largest terror attack in probably, I think, in world history. And you say American that's so weird.
Nowadays, support just keeping the status quo, like the kind of
But they're
strategic ambiguity of
The
what's going
overwhelming
on.
the overwhelming majority's consensus opinion is that they don't want to disrupt relations with China, and they also, like, obviously, if it was a situation between like full-blown independence versus like becoming a Chinese state, like becoming a part of the Chinese state.
Do the people of Taiwan like pay taxes in China? Like, do they vote in China?
I don't know. I don't know the
They have
exact
elections.
details of that.
Do
But,
they have like travel status in China?
but the thing is, like, as far as
Can we get a countdown for how long until he says U.S. imperialism, Western imperialism, IMF, U.S. hegemony, U.S. interests? There's got to be one of these words is coming up. It's got to be.
as far as the Chinese-Taiwanese relations goes, like the original inception of the country is
British imperialism?
Taiwan
a fascist dictatorship that America recognized as the real China until Richard Nixon normalized relations with China, and that's where they implemented the they call it strategic ambiguity, which I call lying.
Hold on,
They
this
said-
says that the current administration of Taiwan maintains that Taiwan is already an independent country.
There's yes.
Thus does not have to
Oh,
push for
sorry.
any sort of formal independence.
I was thinking Hong Kong.
There are well, that's because they don't want to do like a full-blown. They don't want to disrupt the status quo. That's why they're saying that.
Sure, they don't want to be invaded by China.
They want autonomy while simultaneously being under the Chinese banner, according
Like
to
they want
international-
independence, but they just don't want to be like attacked by China. Militarily.
Well, that's part of it for sure. So you understand how Taiwan was.
Part of it for sure. Now let's go back to the founding of Taiwan because I really don't want to talk about modern day geopolitics. Let's focus on a long
Developed
Yes.
nation state, right? Like, so Mao purged and defeated the counter-revolutionary forces. Taiwan has been a larger part of like China historically, and the original Taiwanese claim was that the entire mainland China belonged to what is now known as Taiwan. And that was the American foreign policy position as well, because, you know, China was communist and Taiwan was a fascist military dictatorship. So they were like, oh yeah, we're just gonna completely ignore China until Nixon normalized relations with China. And then Taiwan became a democratic country, of course, with still a lot of reactionary opinions overall, but like that's gone away in recent years. I think the younger generations have a different perspective on the matter. But overall, like historically speaking, Taiwan and China being the same country, it has been around for much longer than like, as Elon Musk said, Hawaii being an American state. Much, much longer.
Taiwan is already independent. That's what I'm saying. People don't want a formal declaration just because they don't want a fucking war. But they're not wanting to be Hong Kong and be consumed by the Chinese party.
You don't want to be Hong Kong? What happened in Hong Kong?
You just, oh my god. And I hate it too. The thing that I hate the most about this is that Hassan is the political authority of the show, right? Hassan is the one that markets himself as a political streamer. Ethan is just like a social media guy who does like he does a show on Hassan. Hassan is the largest political streamer in the world right now. Why can't he give comments and answers to this? Because you gotta believe when we're talking about Iraq, that's one side. The U.S. is wrong, period. Afghanistan, the U.S. never should have gone in for a war, right? Like, he'll give you very quick. Probably say Libya intervention was bad, Bosnian intervention was bad. I imagine it might be against everything. Who knows? But now with like Taiwan, we need to bring out the most nuanced, lawfully non-offensive position possible against a guy that is known for, you know, but a guy that looks basically
Not similar place.
No, you
They were
are.
independent, and then they got.
They were not independent.
Well, Oh, they had some rights. They were less independent than Taiwan, and then they got eaten
Hong
up.
Kong was bought by you know.
Are you saying the people of Hong Kong did not want to be?
There were certainly people that did not want to be a part of China. Absolutely, that is 100% correct.
Most of them.
A lot of people
there took a lot of pride in
enjoyed. A lot of people enjoyed having Western civil liberties, while simultaneously like being in a unique position. But now that China already does regular trade with the rest of the world, because like at a time in like the 90s, Hong Kong was seen as like this prosperous middle ground. But since the 2000s, like because of an insane amount of development and insane trade relations with the rest of the planet, there are tier 1 cities that are even larger and have more economic activity than Hong Kong in and of itself. And there was always a timeline where Hong Kong was going to be given back to China. It just accelerated it by like 2 decades, if I'm not mistaken. Because that was a lease on Hong Kong. So the people of Hong Kong, there were certainly a lot of people in Hong Kong that did not want to be
regardless of that.
But overall, if you look at the situation in Hong Kong right now, it's like they claimed that it was going to be devastating, and that has not happened.
Does this disagreement go on really for a whole 2 more minutes? Is that true? Should I watch the rest of this, or?
That we know of, because they have no freedom of speech anymore.
Okay.
They can't talk. They lost
that
their
part
right.
is true. You're right.
What are we going to learn from that?
He got so mad when he said that.
Will not.
They have secret prisons,
I do
bro.
not agree with China's social or civil liberties policy. I do not agree with that at all.
But
so I don't live in China.
But
in
the United
America.
States, bring up the U.S.
However, having said that,
the U.S.
you can just go to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
And you can just go to every part of China pretty much and see for yourself. This is no longer like the North Korea style hermit kingdom where like no information comes out. Like we have
regardless,
we have a shit ton of Chinese people that live in America.
Regardless, bro, it's not that they had rights. They don't have rights now. They lost a lot of rights. But whatever. I mean, you're. This is interesting. That you're very soft. You're very soft-footed around the issue of China. You love China.
I just, it's not that I love China. Just say that. I wish you would just honest. Most of the progressives would cheer you on anyway.
I think China.
If you love China so much, why don't you marry it?
Once again, I don't live there. I choose to live here because of the issues that you just brought up, which is civil liberties being taken away, no freedom of speech, walled garden internet. Like, there are certainly parallels to the American state or the Western world. There are certainly comparisons that you could make. But overall, that kind of mechanism of control is one that I...
Do you think he actually hates America or loves the image of it? No, he loves the image of it. There's nothing more American in the aesthetic. Whether we're talking about actual revolutionaries or in the early days of the United States, or whether we're talking about quote-unquote socialists and communists that are wealthy kids that have been basically subsumed by capitalism, like the critiques of capitalism subsumed by American-style capitalism itself. It's all part of the same shit. If they hated America, Don's got enough money to literally anywhere he wants in the world. He chooses to live in California. There's a reason.
do not appreciate personally, which is why I choose to live here. But as far as like cruelty, oppression, like what you're talking about with respect to Hong Kong, the promises that Western media overall made about like how China was going to crush Hong Kong under its like ruthless, oppressive thumb has not happened.
I don't think that was the point. I think the point was just that there's whoever was, vocal about wanting to maintain certain rights in Hong Kong was probably thrown in a secret prison and never.
I mean, certainly there was political dissidents are definitely political dissidents are definitely like
taken out back.
They're not killed or anything, but even then it's like completely.
They take a walk and
yeah.
And they go for a beer and they don't come back.
Yeah, they're not good on that stuff.
But anyway, I was just curious. You say you think the people of Taiwan, whatever they want. It seems to me that the people of Taiwan want independence. So I'm ready to be there, brother. independence for Taiwan?
I think one nation, two systems.
One nation, two systems?
Yeah. Which is the current.
Like Israel and Palestine?
Oh my God. You don't want to go down.
Oh, that was such a good. That was such a good.
That rabbit hole. Come on.
I'm fucking with you. I'm just trying to.
You should have leaned into that.
Yeah.
That part is like literally. I mean, that is a. I mean, that's an advocacy in the opposite direction, in my.
Can I just say I will give a lot of props to Hassan. I have never heard of Hassan talk about international politics this long without using the term Western imperialism or American Western imperialism. Good job, Hassan. Congratulations. I can't believe he's made us start without using that.
My opinion, where.
Independence for Taiwan. You heard it here from Hassan.
Because remember, like, the overwhelming majority of people living in Taiwan are still Han Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, despite the fact that it's a separate country, it's still, like, the same people. The language
like
is
Ukraine.
the same. People will say
Ukraine belongs to Russia for that exact reason.
I don't think Ukraine belongs to Russia.
I don't give a about the Ukrainian constitution. I don't give a about the Ukrainian border sovereignty that some of you dumbasses are talking about. Like you're like a 3%er, but for Ukraine. Okay? It's so stupid. Crimea is not the same as Kiev, however. Crimea is not the same as the rest of Ukraine, however. Eastern Ukrainian territories have a lot of Russian people living in them because Ukraine, and just like Crimea and much of the rest of the country, was a part of Russia, was a part of the USSR until not that long ago, okay? People's parents were alive back then. So obviously, there's a lot of Russian people living there. So if you have, but like, you feeling bad about the Crimean annexation does not change the reality of the Crimean annexation being a completely justifiable act by the Russian government, okay? So that's it. That's fine. And Hitler invaded countries based on Germanic ties at first? Yeah, dude. Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians in a fucking... What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians in a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't bad because he's Austria. He was bad because he was fucking killing Jews, okay? That was the problem. He wasn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna annex territory with like Germanic people in it. That wasn't the main problem with Hitler, I think. That was like maybe 8th down the line. Next slide. Yeah? How would it look like Tim Pool after that 49-state landslide L if, you know, there was a active bombing currently happening on Kiev and like Ukrainians were being murdered?
Oh no, this motherfucker. I said on stream that I wanted to watch this video and do a debug, and he already did it. This is an insane video. Did they delete it? Oh, those fucking cowards. Oh, I think they did delete it. They privated it after this video. Oh no!
Because Ukrainian nation-state, the Ukrainian nation-state project, there are similarities, you're not wrong about that, but the Ukrainian nation-state project as a well-defined nation-state has always has been around for much.
Is it? So I might be unfair to Hassan. I might be unfair. One of the criticisms I made of Hassan a lot of it feels like he's. You go to Hassan and you want like all the progressive talking points rattled off basically. But I would never go to Hassan's stream thinking like, I wonder what Hassan thinks about this issue. I would go to Hassan's stream like, what do progressives saying about this issue, right? Because I'm not probably going to get a original take on this issue. But it sounds like, damn, he stepped outside of his talking points. What do we like? What is he even saying? We're just like saying a whole bunch of Ukrainian state project has some similarities. Like, what are you?
Much longer than like Taiwan being an independent nation state.
So the people's entitlement to freedom.
Like you can make a better argument for Crimea being a separate country than like.
But what I'm hearing is that it's just a function of how old their culture is, how entitled they are to freedom.
It's not. I don't think that it's like.
I also feel like we better. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know that much about Taiwan and Hong Kong's history. Hong Kong was bought by the British at some point. They've got like an agreement to sell defense there. And I don't know. Taiwan considers itself to China, and all of China belongs to Taiwan, and China considers itself to real China. I don't know what the actual like being done indoctrinate into like I'm gonna be honest, I don't. But like, damn, if I was getting grilled and like, listen, I just don't know that much about like the history of Taiwan and Hong Kong. I can't give you a strong opinion on this, other than I'm pretty sure both Hong Kong and Taiwanese people really want to separate from China. That's like that. Like, yeah, I don't know why you would just sit rather than waffle around on this so hard. Holy shit.
Those two concepts are not the two concepts at play here. Like, it's not like entitled to freedom versus what was the other thing that you said?
Well, it just seems like you're talking about like their national, they have some kind of national heritage or identity.
Well, the thing that I was mentioning there, the reason why I mentioned that is because you were talking about making a comparison between like Israel, Palestine, being that the same people, I think, makes that kind of, especially existing under the construct of having like one nation state regardless, with freedom of travel in between. It's literally like a mile off the coast, you know what I mean, of China. Having all of that factors into like whether there's going to be assimilation or not. And there is no need for assimilation even. They have like normal trade relations with Taiwan, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why it's considered to be a delicate political conversation, but one that currently the current system benefits both.
And so if China takes military action against Taiwan, as some people speculate may happen.
Yeah, I mean, that would not be good. I don't think that would be good. I think that would be really, really terrifying. It would be disruptive for the entire global economy as well.
Right, but I'm just mean like from whose army are you joining?
Neither.
Whose front line are you fighting?
I'm fucking moving to
Taiwan.
I'm moving to an undisclosed location.
I love that Hassan never engages with hypotheticals.
I'm moving to an undisclosed location.
I'm on the front.
I'm gonna be on a fucking ship.
Whoever has the best computer chips, I'm fighting for.
Okay.
I'm a chip boy myself.
If it wasn't for America, China would have some pretty solid chip technology, but America's like regularly trying to stop that process. Like, they went to the Netherlands to be like, you can't sell China your chip technology, which is fucking insane if you ask me.
It's incredible the takes in chat, how many people are just the
how many are supporting China because of Hassan's fans?
the polarization of this topic.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Well, of course there's going to be polarization on the topic, because the American media has been gearing people to be across the board like vicious, no matter what, to any foreign adversary, China being the main foreign adversary now. So people are going to be very passionate in their defense and start saying, we care about the people in Taiwan, you're not talking about the people in Taiwan, you don't care about them.
It's the media. If it weren't for the media propaganda, people would not be siding with Taiwan.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. Why the fuck does no one care about Yemen?
Oh, Hassan was like kind of got like making it in the worst possible way.
You know what I mean? Why? Because Saudi Arabia is the one, our ally, Saudi Arabia, is the one doing the genocide in Yemen. And you never see people get this passionate about Yemen. I think people get this passionate about Syria.
I think Taiwan has more relevance to the United States, like in terms of economical and social.
That was developed.
Well, that's only natural that people would care more about something that affects them. I don't think Yemen. And I'm not.
I love that Ethan, like, I don't even know if he's aware he's doing this. Ethan just like asks really good questions. He brings up really like, well, it's media propaganda that's made us appreciate Taiwan, and look, we don't even care about Yemen, and blah 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 blah. And Ethan's like, well, like, I mean, yeah, but don't we like trade a lot more with Taiwan? So isn't that kind of normal? He just happens to like so nonchalantly kind of cut the bullshit and ask like the best kind of question to center the guy. It's really funny, drunken master style.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just don't think Yemen affects.
But it's still people. There's still people that are being mercilessly slaughtered, whereas no one is being slaughtered in Taiwan in a similar capacity, and yet there are way more passionate because,
not saying it's
like
right or
you
wrong.
said,
I mean,
it is designed to have this kind of
And you think that if the only reason
consent.
people care about Ukraine is because of the media?
Absolutely, 100%.
Nobody would care.
Yeah, of
Did
course.
anybody care about Georgia?
Yeah. That's a great
Probably,
question.
I don't know.
No. No one gave a shit about Georgia.
It was in the news for like a week or two.
That's crazy.
But Georgia also isn't really part of Europe, right? That's what we care more about, right? Not Eurasia as much, as mean as that is, but it's also why we don't care about like Azerbaijan. Like, I mean, and I'm pretty sure there were issues going on there recently, but like, yeah.
Hold on. Well, I mean, what about in Europe? They seem to care about Ukraine a lot.
It's the similar principle.
How are you going to say it's the media for Europe caring about a European country being invaded by the former Soviet Union? Bro. Really?
Media is still media everywhere around the world.
I mean,
it plays
Ukraine
a very significant role in people's lives.
Hold on. Ukraine borders Europe, and I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but Georgia is not really in such a geographically, strategically important location as Ukraine.
Okay.
Well, I'm just explaining why people might care.
Like, it's funny, too, because notice how before, when he talked about Taiwan, the history was really important. But now that he's talking about Ukraine, the only thing that's important is the media, I guess? Why don't we talk about the history of Ukraine in Europe?
The idea that you can just move in and take over places because there might be some conflict there just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any more sense than if Southern California suddenly had a bunch of Mexican separatists there that wanted to break that away and have them join Mexico. The rest of the world wouldn't say, well, United States, you just have to kind of cede your sovereignty there and allow some of your states to break away and join Mexico. Of course not. We would hold on to that land because it's our sovereign territory. And since 1991, Ukraine has had distinct borders that have been recognized by not only the rest of the world, but Russia itself. And no amount of separatist movements, especially ones that are funded by Russia, allow them to break away and just join Russia. And then the reason why I don't like to go back historically is because when people want to go back historically, they only go back so far. You know, you hear Putin and you hear all these other people talk about, well, you know, the people in the East, you know, they feel Russian, they speak Russian, they've got a lot of Russian ethnic roots. Yeah, of course, that's because during events like the Holodomor, millions of Ukrainians were forcibly starved to death, their wheat was requisitioned, and people that were trying to flee towns were shot and murdered by Soviet troops. So after millions of people die and hundreds of thousands of Russians, ethnic Russians, are shipped in, which the Soviet Union did to all of their little republics that they had gotten as part of the Soviet Union, to go back into the past and then to come forward into the future and say, well, look, there's a lot of ethnic Russians there now, to say that a prior genocide can supersede the sovereign borders drawn around a country in 1991, and then we go forward to 2020 and say, well, look, there's a lot of ethnic Russians there. That's just absolutely bizarre to me. I think that when we frame the conversation, I think we have to stop saying, well, Russia's worried about this, so they should be able to invade, or Russia likes this, so they should be able to take that. Let's look at it from the Ukraine perspective. They have a country that was recognized internationally with borders since 1991. What right does Russia or any other country have to come in and steal territory from them? I haven't heard a single justification for that.
Right? There'd be like historical reasons why it's pretty important that Ukraine remain an uninvaded country with sovereignty and borders that everybody right now. Like, it's just so funny how he switches arguments based on what he's trying to argue. Yeah, I'm so curious what Hassan fans think of when they see him in these situations. Like, this is my political streamer of the year, geopolitical expert guy, who supposedly does politics 24/7 on his stream, right? Like,
more about Ukraine than Georgia. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying
Still
why.
people. It's the people
I'm
that
not
are being
saying it's not
ruthlessly
people.
slaughtered.
I'm just saying, because your theory is that the support for Ukraine and Taiwan is essentially manufactured, that it wouldn't
yes,
exist.
good job, Ethan. You picked up.
It shouldn't exist.
I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I'm simply stating
said
that.
yeah.
I'm simply stating that.
It's manufactured. People only care
tremendous
about it
amount-
because they've been tricked to caring about it.
It's not tricked, but dude, like, normal people don't think about foreign policy. Are you saying that you don't think that normal people's opinions about like international matters are shaped by what they see on the news?
God, this guy's such a Hassan simp. Somebody said he was a Majority Report fan. I don't know if that's true. I'm just repeating fake news, but like.
And what's prioritized?
I'll give you a better example.
Of course it is.
Hold on, because I'm being double teamed now, so I need to speak.
Okay.
Of course it is. But this implication that you're like, if you say nobody cares about Taiwan or Ukraine because of the media, it implies that, you know, the support for those two countries or care for those two countries is like, you know, manufactured. That it's really not sincere. That's what it sounds like.
You jumped to that.
No, he didn't jump to that. Ethan brought up exactly what is Ethan like? God, I've seen Ethan say and do so many stupid things. But then sometimes I feel like Ethan is like razor sharp. Ethan is correct. That was the implication. Hassan was implying that the only reason we give a fuck about Ukraine is because the media manufactured our interest there. And he's bringing it up, and this guy's like, no, you jumped to that. No, he didn't jump to that at all. That was exactly what Hassan's implication was.
I'm sorry.
No, I am saying that.
Yeah, he is saying.
And now Hassan literally is saying that. He's fighting against the producer guy now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that the support for the overwhelming majority of Americans, for any country that the United States of America has a genuine interest in, is manufactured in either direction. It can be manufactured carelessness and inconsideration, like being inconsiderate and ruthlessly violent at certain points, which is the example I was going to use with 9/11 and what we did post 9/11, or it could be manufactured in the other direction, where it's like, this is the just war. This is the just war that we have to fight, like we did in Vietnam originally, when there was need to generate popular support for whatever kind of action America consistently takes. Now,
I'm not denying that propaganda exists.
Yeah,
but I am saying that like the comparison of Ukraine to Georgia is not. It's not apples to oranges. That's all I'm saying. It's not.
What do you mean by this? That
Ukraine borders like mainland Russia or Europe.
Okay.
Europe cares a lot about it.
Okay. I would say that it's probably more. I would say that in Europe there's probably more of a not controversy necessarily, but it's a more divisive issue in I think Europe than it is in America, most likely.
It's also like, you know,
what's a more divisive issue? Whether or not to support Ukraine? Is that what he said? Because to be clear, now maybe it's not fair to compare, because I think the EU's GDP is 2x the United States, is it? But Europe has supported Ukraine more than the United States in terms of overall aid, weapons, like.
Not the best precedent when like.
Oh, is it 1-to-1? Is the EU GDP? European Union GDP is $17.4 trillion. What is the US GDP at? Aren't we at like oh my god. Holy shit. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. Was the European Union ahead of the United States at one point? Am I making that up? Oh, the UK left. True, that might impact things as well. Oh, okay. Europe's GDP hasn't increased since 2008. Okay.
Like tyrants start land grabbing in Europe. Generally,
I don't disagree with that. I agree with you. I think that
and so I understand why people don't like
completely unjustifiable. And it's also, even if you're like pro-Russia, pro-Vladimir Putin, anti-NATO, right? Even if you're all of those things, it is a laughably idiotic thing to do, because all you've done is now galvanize NATO support in Europe and justified it, because that was the entire reason for NATO's existence, is to stop the USSR, stop communism from thriving. And obviously, Russia is a very different country than the USSR was, and is no longer ideologically aligned with communism at all. It is a state that Western capitalists basically redesigned and propped up oligarchs, including people like Vladimir Putin. So, despite all of that, it's still utilized as a protection racket that basically justified its existence of by doing such an unimaginably cruel, inhuman
protection racket. How many NATO countries were attacked by other countries in world history?
Humane, unjustifiable act, invading Ukraine. So it's a strategic blunder, even if you're like pro-Russia.
I do think that I just think people are capable of caring about it without.
Well, I mean, I care
being
about
like,
it.
You know,
I care about it.
People sincerely care about it.
I love he does that thing. Hassan will do that where, like, if you were a woman, you were walking down an alley and a guy was going to stab you, would you call the cops if he was a minority? And Hassan's like, well, I wouldn't. He always does it. Well, why? To like avoid like actually engaging with the subject matter.
Even though, you know, you think it's unfair that people didn't care as much about Georgia, you know. That's my point as well.
It's not necessarily just not caring about Georgia. My opinion on this is that we, as a nation, here in America and all around the world, are not immune to propaganda.
No.
As a matter of fact, every piece of information that we analyze has a great impact on our decision-making process, and therefore, doing a full media blitz on any particular issue is usually going to yield these kinds of results and this kind of support, which without that kind of media blitz would not exist. Does that make sense?
Again, I'm not denying that propaganda exists and that we're all, you know, influenced.
And the example I was going to use was our justification for the invasion of Afghanistan and the invasion of Iraq. These were both unjustifiable wars, in my opinion. The war on terror was across the board, wholesale, ruthless, cruel, led to millions of people dying, led to tens of millions of people being destabilized, and we're still living in the rubble of that kind of cruel and unusual action. And it was championed by a majority of the American population, and until like the past couple of years, where
what does that have to do with Ukraine being invaded by Russia?
Where do you think that kind of attitude came from?
Okay,
where do you think that justification came from? There was $1 billion industry.
Same thing, man.
There was also 9/11 too, which probably definitely galvanized support of the United States for any type of war in the Middle East, right?
Ukraine was invaded by Russia.
No, it is exactly the same
and
thing.
It's literally a tyrant grabbing land in Europe.
I agree with what you're saying. My point is, my point is that
propaganda exists. Yeah, I know.
No, my point is that Americans think that they are independent thinkers, and yet they are motivated into believing things, no matter what it is. It can be a just cause.
I agree that
it can be a just cause in the situation where you're supporting Ukraine and Ukrainian independence, which is an independent nation state. You know what I mean? It's been an independent nation state in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR. It's been an independent nation state. You can't just like turn around and be like, all right, it's mine now, right? I agree with that. And that it can be seen as a just war, an understandable war. It's not even a war that the Ukrainian people wanted, right? But having said that, the American support, the full-throated support, is absolutely
It doesn't seem like there's full-throated support. There's a lot of people that don't support it. There's a very diverse opinion of
if you looked at polls in the original invasion, the amount of support
there's a lot of conservative people who are like Putin simps, and then there's also a bunch of like lefties, like I don't mean that derogatory.
Those aren't.
Oh my God, he just like unintentionally says like the funniest things.
Real
who aren't like who are like the guy we were speaking to, the communist professor.
Richard Wolff?
Yeah, who's like kind of
the communist professor. I love Ethan so much. The communist professor.
People like him are also very anti-Ukraine in general.
I don't know his entire perspective, but I don't think you can be pro. If you are offering even critical support to Russia, or not Russia, but like Vladimir.
Is Ethan a DGGer? Is he in chat right now? Jesus.
Putin in general. I don't think you're doing the right thing.
I don't know what's his position because he didn't really flesh out.
I think you're lost in the sauce. I think you're lost in the sauce in the sense that.
Me or him?
No, like anyone that is like, oh no, Vladimir Putin did the right thing. He has to have this.
I don't think people are saying that. I think what I hear is like, Ukraine, Zelensky is also, you know, a shit starter, and it's their problem that we shouldn't get involved in.
Ethan is doing a good job too. Hassan wants to like hand wave all the arguments, like, oh yeah, it's really bad when people say this. Well, but this other thing, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's more reasonable. But let's talk about that point, right? Yeah. Because people don't just say like, oh, Putin's good. Usually what lefties will say is, well, what about Iraq? What about Afghanistan? What about U.S. support of horrible overseas things? And what about how bad Zelensky is? That's true, right?
I don't know. I think there's a lot. There are people who like claim to be socialist or even communist that are like, you know, defending Vladimir Putin, but they're marginal.
What, Dan? You seem to think that the Ukraine war isn't something America should get involved in.
When did I ever say that?
Just based on what you were saying about Georgia.
No, we were having a discussion about how media shapes narratives in the United States. And I was saying that, again, I'm not talking about in Europe, I'm not talking about in the rest of the world. In the United States, the Russian invasion of Georgia was a non-story. Nobody gave a shit here.
But it's different.
We know that was definitely a story. It might have only been a story for like a week or two, which I think might have been how long it lasted for. It was only a story for a short amount of time, but it was definitely international news. It was a big deal when that came out. That was a big deal story when it happened, but it was just short-lived.
And it is different. There's difference.
It was a sovereign nation that Russia invaded.
Because it doesn't have the same proximity or the same importance within as Ukraine, I think.
Right, but we're talking past each other. Like that. Ukraine is more important to the United States strategically. That's why it gets attention. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know people are influenced by the media.
Right, but you were saying you think that people, you know,
are allowed to care about things genuinely.
Nobody's saying that you're not allowed
to. I mean,
not allowed to. But Hassan was saying.
What was I saying?
That It's a manufactured support.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, and
that is something that the U.S. media does. They manufacture support for U.S. foreign
were
policy.
saying I jumped to conclusions.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that all U.S. foreign policy is bad, but I think it is unquestionably true that the U.S. media crafts people's.
Of course.
Yeah, crafts the narrative.
So what is the disagreement then? Like, what if maybe I'm not using.
The disagreement is that Ethan is saying that you can have moral or reasonable grounds, basically, to disagree with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Hassan and this other producer guy are basically trying to write it off as like, oh, it's a manufactured issue. Otherwise, we wouldn't give a. Both are kind of true, but Hassan is leaning really heavily into the manufactured issue.
There's the implication that support for Ukraine or Taiwan is not authentic.
Yes.
Right, that you're carrying
good
U.S.
job,
propaganda.
Ethan.
Right,
Yes.
I do agree with that, yeah.
And then you, Stan, said,
I don't think that was
the examples I used. The examples I use are always like, America has what 800 military bases all around the planet. We have our hands in everyone's pockets, right? And there's active conflict happening everywhere around the planet all the time, and the United States is involved in it. If you are not thinking about it, if you're not thinking about something happening specifically, that is because, for the most part, the media has not covered it. For the most part, the media is.
All right, I'm over it. Let's move on.
And I think that
I don't want to talk about it
strategic.
anymore.
That is deliberate. That is by design.
It's like just not even fun to watch probably at this point or talk about.
Okay.
You want to talk about Lauren Boebert being a psycho?
We can do that.
Sure.
Jesus Christ. Yes, King. Ethan asking the right questions. H3 subreddit. 505 comments. If you call us on a tanky, you don't know what tanky means. It lost so much of its meaning that it's on the level of woke in terms of how people misuse it. OP is a Destiny fan. His foreign policy knowledge comes from Destiny regurgitating articles written by David Frum. Oh, cool. Here comes another heated lefty versus lib, pearl-clutching geopolitics discourse in the sub between Redditors who read one tangentially related book in high school and know something about know someone whose neighbor's parents are from Taiwan and actually care a lot about the issue. Jesus. Where was the outrage for Georgia? No one cares. Well, if I knew about it, I would care. So yes, media definitely focuses. Shots, $20. It's BS that we don't care about Georgia. There was a crisis in the EU and the Polish president, along with Baltic leaders, flew to Tbilisi during the Russians' advance. Bush was threatening retaliation. The only reason they stopped. Huh. Sounds being a bit too cynical here. Damn. The OP is not a DGGer. His name is Bertrell Russrand. How could he not be a DGGer? If you check my comments from about 4 months ago, I'm sure you will find out what I think of Destiny, or should I say the rape apologist. Oh, wow. Okay, based. Oh my god. Hassan subreddit. H3 subreddit directly linking to the thread encouraging brigading. That's wild. This is super no-no on Reddit rules. This thread will get deleted for sure. Jesus.
I have a question
yeah.
for you, Anna. Let's say Ukraine gets everything back since the invasion, apart from Crimea, and Crimea just stays like a frozen conflict for like 70 years. Would you say it's still Russian, or it still should go back to Ukraine?
I mean, I guess it's hard to say. Like, I do believe that we will be able to take it, but if not, then depends, I think, on the years. If, like, I don't know, like generations passed, and I think most people would consider it Russia at that point.
And this is why, this is the rough thing, because when you say that, this is why Modi wants to build settlements in Kashmir, and this is why Israel wants to have settlements in the West Bank, I think, because I think fundamentally what everybody understands, even if they don't want to say it, is when it comes to the rules of who owns what, if you can just put your own people there and keep them there long enough, at some point everybody's going to be like, okay, fine. And that seems to be the goal with trying to move people into area, for the Russification of states in the Soviet Union, right? If you move enough Soviet citizens there, move enough Russians in there, like eventually it's like, yeah, that's kind of our shit, you know? Yeah.
I mean, it changes obviously because we remain to be Ukrainian despite being Russified, so there's that. But there are different situations. For example, Belarus, right? It's basically, you know, they lost identity at this point.
Sure.
To be honest, so so there's like, not to say that they're Russian, but technically. exactly, you know, because they speak Russian. It's like 90-something% speaks Russian. Most people don't know Belarus language at all. Like 10%, I think, do, or something like that. There's also the fact that Lukashenko, that potato Führer of theirs, he speaks Russian. You know, nobody like even cultural things. They're pretty much like basically Russia at this point. So if that happens, then yeah, I guess. But at the same time, you wouldn't say that Irish people are English, right? Despite the fact that they speak English. Or you wouldn't say like about Scottish people as well that. So at least you will get punched in the face if you say it for understandable reason. So yeah, not everything comes back to language, obviously, but culturally you can get assimilated to a point, but that there is definitely no difference there. But I do think there could be like cultural revival of sorts. I mean, it kind of happened in Ukraine all the time, despite them trying to prohibit the language, destroy it, prohibit the culture, prohibit identity, call us like Malorossi, which is like little Russians, basically. So they were like, you know, executing people left and right, and for a very long time, and also like Holodomor and things like that. And despite that, people still seem to find this like return to the culture, to the identity, and the language survived. And yeah, so I think it's possible, but yeah, at some point, yeah. Oh, I mean, hard question, to be honest. I do think that one of the reasons we should return Crimea, of course, is because we don't want them to use it as a base. We don't want them to, you know, to take it on a legal grounds, on a moral grounds, but it has not been like 70 years. So, yeah. Also, Tatari are the people who suffer the most there, and we want to help them as well, obviously. If speaking about this, like, who actually, like, is Crimea natives, it's no Tatari, it's not Russians. So, yeah. But they already executed the bunch of them, like, deported them, you know, back in 2 times, actually, two deportations, and to Siberia and to, like, other parts of Russia as well. So, I don't know, like, majority there is Russian. That's the fact of the matter. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
also,
yeah, kind of hard, I guess.
Use the restroom. We're gonna talk real quick. 1 sec.
Yeah, okay. Hello, Loner Box, yay!
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well.
I was reading an article not too long ago about the Tatar situation in Crimea. I didn't actually know, I guess it was obvious, but even when they returned in the 80s and 90s, like from then on all the way until 2014, them existing in Crimea has basically just been this fucking eternal struggle for like restitution or land, and they haven't. And because I think Crimea's big thing in as part of Russia is that like it's like a very big gangster capital kind of center, right, where land is traded often off the books. There's no official land registry that covers everything, so people just like that's kind of how most of the economic shenanigans happen, and then the result is that like Tatars basically just end up squatting to try and hold on to what was once theirs, or like
yes, they have not been given like absolutely anything that was taken from them. So basically, when a bunch of them have been deported after World War II, which was another deportation, there was like prior to this, but this was like the major one most people talk about by Stalin. So, yes, you know, he like declared them basically Nazi collaborators, traitor nation, whatever the fuck, right? And used that as an excuse to deport them. Quite a lot of them died on the road, obviously, but plenty returned. But when they returned, they were faced with the situation that the majority of the population that was installed there was Russian. And they also took their literal belongings, their houses, like their, you know, land, everything they owned, and just started living there, which is also what they do now, by the way, in occupied areas, in Mariupol, for example, right? And so since then, pretty much Crimea Tatar have been fucked and trying to establish their lives again in Crimea after returning, but it has not been easy, and Russians have not treated them well whatsoever. Majority of stuff in Crimea was owned by Russia, even when it was part of Ukraine. So yeah, and I mean by that, like they had like autonomy in a way, right, to govern themselves basically. But technically, like there were like Russian flags everywhere. There was like, you know, like institutions, or everything was basically under Russia. And Ukraine, since 91st, didn't do much as well, by the way, to help Tatari. I mean, we didn't treat them like shit, obviously, but we didn't like do much to to help them, like return something, like some sort of like reparations or anything like that. And yeah, it was not great for them. But they, for some reason, are very pro-Ukrainian, despite the fact that we didn't do much for them, which I appreciate.
Well, that's because basically all the wealth of Crimea and like the land is basically in the hands of Russians, not Ukrainians, right?
Yes.
But
And also they kind of saw us as a better ally, I guess. You gotta have someone, you know. Yeah, they're not in the position to not ally themselves with anyone. So I'd say Ukraine in that regard is much better. And Tatari, all of them pretty much are very pro-Ukrainian and very like activist, very, you know, since.
We send billions overseas, but we don't want to spend here. We are a joke. I'm sorry, I see that in Kick Chat. That is not true. We are spending an ungodly amount. Our budget deficits have been higher than they ever have been in all of U.S. history. I don't know how you could ever say we're not spending domestically. The American Reinvestment Plan was like $2 trillion. The Inflation Reduction Act was, I think, hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, I don't know how you can say we don't spend domestically. We spend so much domestically. We spend an ungodly amount domestically. That statement is completely
How long might it
fantastical.
take for Ukraine to win the war and take back Crimea?
No clue.
I don't really know exactly what that would look like.
Well, to be real, there's like several ideas that are floating around about that, and fuck it, I will say it how it is. Well, quite a lot of people kind of hope they will escape. A lot of them will escape to Russia. So very like, I guess, aggressively pro-Russian Crimean people most likely will just escape. Mostly because they're terrified of evil banderites, you know. So
Somebody said...
Sorry, yeah, I'm trying to answer the Lonerbox question. And so this is the thing. Quite a lot of them will stay and be like pretty much like conformists. So there are like quite a lot of Crimean people who really don't care that much. So they're not like Ukrainian patriots, to be real, right? But they're not like Russian as well. So Russian patriots. So they're like indifferent. They kind of see themselves as just Crimean, you know. So like, I don't know, like they don't feel like any sense of strong identity either way. And there are, of course, like a lot of Crimean people who are straight up like pro-Russian vatniks and imperialists, obviously. Those, I presume, will just run the fuck away. And there's also this idea of giving quite a lot of it to Tatari, of their stuff, I mean, and also probably settling people who lost their homes in Ukraine there also can be an idea. Because, for example, in Donbass, I don't know, like, genuinely like 60-70% of shit is ruined. Even in my like region, Kharkivska Oblast, everything that is past Kharkiv to the east, closer to Donbass, is fucking ruins. So when I go to like front lines and stuff, just every village, every city is basically in ruins. Absolutely nothing left there, unlivable. So quite a lot of people who are internal like migrants, right? So they within Ukraine they moved to other areas, so less shelled areas, less war-torn areas. So they could use that as well, I guess, because of Russian fucking invasion and genocidal shit, they lost all of their belongings and houses as well. And it will take, I don't know how fucking long to restore that, if it's even possible. So yeah, so you know, different ideas are floating around, but most people, to be 100% real with you, don't give that much of a shit about how ethical it would be to remove Russians from there at this point.
That doesn't surprise me.
Somebody said,
these like post-20.
Somebody's in a chat for you, Lonerbox. Lonerbox is slightly misinformed of the Supreme Court situation. Half of Israel is basically revolting right now, and the Supreme Court still retains its full power. Is that true? Did you lie?
No, I saw them in the Discord as well. I even said, like, after I said get rid of the court, I moved it back to effectively defanged. I already changed it because I knew that it's technically not. Yeah.
Okay.
God, they're fucking vultures out there, but yeah, not true.
And when I was by this thing about voting in Ukraine, before I went to that accursed panel, I didn't know really that that would be even like a topic, because there was like topic about, you know, typical stuff about Ukraine, but there was like also this topic about how awful non-American and non-democratic it is that there will be no elections. And basically the whole point of that was that you have to do those elections to seem like not barbarians to the West. So the West will support you. That was literally the point that the guy was making. I don't see SDL, I think, is his name, and he was like basically saying like, yeah, I understand that there are like a lot of issues, but we Americans did it when Civil War was happening, so why can't you? And I basically stole like Lonerbox's point when we was chatting with him, and he was saying like even in United Kingdom, like in Britain, Great Britain, there was no elections for a while, even before World War II ended, and there was no like German boots on the ground in the UK. They were bombed, obviously, but not there was not like millions displaced, like half the country displaced, half the country can't vote. Yeah, it's just also not to mention the fact that million is serving, and yeah, it's a clusterfuck. Like and administratively, it's impossible. And I was trying to make those points, and nobody was addressing them, and everyone was like, "Yeah, but it would be so fuck yeah democracy if you vote." I was like, guys, there are like bigger issues right now than fuck yeah democracy moment. But yeah, it was a bit weird.
Yeah, but that's why I think like when you're talking about ethical standards across countries and like what's a good moral standard for a country to behave, I guess it's just because there are some things that we do kind of treat as universal. Like we have our international laws on refugees or genocide and all that shit, and then there are other things like the way you treat a Supreme Court that's more up in the air, or just like there are probably good cases for yeah.
They were also saying male voting is a thing, and I was like, it's not a thing here. I mean, we never done it before, and they was like, oh, you should do it now, and I'm like, dude, like while I'm talking, like shit is exploding outside my window. What are you on about? Yeah, it was a very strange experience. I was a bit shocked that that was even a topic.
Some people just love democracy, you know?
I mean, yeah. And then I was trying to make those points, and another person, I think he's a conservative, Sparky something. I think he was very nice to me, but Spark Aircraft, yeah, Aircraft Spark, yeah. But he was like saying like, you see that just she has different values as a Ukrainian. She doesn't value democracy, and I was like, bro, we are literally partially fighting mostly for that, for the right to choose our like electives, for democracy, for our democratically elected government, for being part of European Union, and being much less barbarians as we are now. And I was like, it's not about not valuing democracy, it's about actual martial law and fucking war and being bombed. How do we prevent Russians from shooting at people at the voting centers? Like, do we do it like in the underground or some shit? It's just very strange. To me, it was very weird. Not to.
I want to help him reestablish some sort of a different, route for him to go in terms of his career and whatnot. And so I had him on my podcast, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
It didn't seem to me personally that there was a bunch of reflection done.
Did you see Carlos Mencia on Bobby Lee's show? It is riveting. I called Bobby when I got done with it.
I have to say, in terms of uncomfortable podcasts I've done in my life, right? Yeah. That rivaled the Carlos Mencia one.
Ooh.
The Carlos Mencia one was, for me, very uncomfortable.
With over 2.1 million views in only 8 months, the Tiger Belly episode with Brendan Schaub is quickly becoming their most viewed and controversial episode on their channel. And although the entire situation, the drama was pretty wild, it does not top the very uncomfortable and legendary episode with Carlos Mencia. In this video, you will see Bobby Lee actually talking to Carlos Mencia about his massive downfall. He gives him an opportunity to apologize and come clean, and after 50 minutes of just a tough conversation and uncomfortable moments, Bobby Lee is left no choice but to actually call him out for the joke stealing. It was definitely a tough watch, especially if you're a long-time comedy fan and if you know the entire drama that happened between Bobby Lee, Carlos Mencia, and Joe Rogan back in like 2008.
So how are you feeling now with all the controversy that happened a decade ago? I mean, what's going on now?
14 years ago now.
14 years ago, yeah.
I realized, like, my absence from the internet in all those years allowed a narrative to be created that will never change. So my biggest regret is back in those days, when all this stuff happened, was to fight it. Not fight it, but Like, I've recorded all my shows since 1993. I
Yeah.
don't have to fight anybody on anything.
I
If
know.
somebody comes up to me and says, hey, you're doing my joke, I could easily go, what joke is it? When did you tell it? Let me go look. And then if you did it before me, I'll stop doing it or whatever it is. Like, I've always had that.
Yeah.
But
both Bobby and Kalila quickly realized that Carlos Mencia is not going to be apologizing, and instead he is about to start denying it.
Like, I've always had that.
Yeah.
But
both Bobby and Kalila.
It happened a decade ago. I mean, what's going on now?
14 years allowed a narrative to be created that will never change.
Hmm.
So my biggest regret is back in those days, you know, when all this stuff happened, was to fight it. Not fight it, but to, like, I've recorded all my shows since 1993. I
Yeah.
don't have to fight anybody on anything.
I
If
know.
somebody comes up to me and says, hey, you're doing my joke, I could easily go, what joke is it? When did you tell it? Let me go look. And then if you did it before me, I'll stop doing it or whatever it is. Like, I've always had that.
Yeah.
But
both Bobby and Kalila quickly realized that Carlos Mencia is not going to be apologizing, and instead he is about to start denying everything. So they know that it's about to be a very tough conversation ahead, because Carlos Mencia begins the conversation by saying something pretty wild, essentially saying that him staying quiet and not addressing the accusations in the past was his biggest mistake and his biggest regret, which is false. There is clearly a video of him actually trying to address the accusations in the worst way possible by doubling down.
Listen to me, and look at me when I tell you this with all honesty. If you think that I steal jokes, yeah, you're right. Of course I steal jokes. Are you out of mind? When I come to a comedy club, you better run. You better get the off stage, because if anything you say is even remotely funny, I'm gonna make it mine. And all I'm gonna do is say Mexican in the front. I'm like a rapper.
Whatever it is, and no matter what I say,
But why not?
it's skipped.
But Ned, why not do in the beginning just a blanket apology?
But
and
I
then move
wasn't.
on?
See, let me get this. Understand what happened. Anytime, even to this day, bro.
Yeah.
Somebody says you stole a joke. I go, okay. Well, what joke was it? Not angry. Like, what joke, dude? I write a lot.
I have seen that, but I've also seen some of your act, you know what I mean, a little too close to things that have already been established, like the Bill Cosby bit.
Yeah, I'd never seen that once.
Plus, he's had so many years, a very long time, to actually think about what he would say in a situation like a podcast with Bobby Lee, who actually knows him. And if back then he would have said the things that he is saying in that podcast, it would have been very bad for him, because there is clearly, or at least back then, there was clearly a lot of people that could have easily disproven what he was saying and came out and exposed him. More people than just Joe Rogan. However, because it's been so long now, none of those comedians are actually going to go out of their way to make a video calling out Mencia or trying to correct him and expose him for what he said on Tiger Belly, except for Brendan Schaub, who actually brought up that episode to Joe Rogan on a Joe Rogan Experience podcast.
Speaking of stealing, did you see Carlos Mencia on Bobby Lee's show?
I did not.
It is riveting. I called Bobby when I got done with it, because I wasn't around the Comedy Store in comedy when that was going down, when you guys had
I
that.
saw that he was on it, and I watched like a few seconds of it, but I was like, oof.
It's pretty entertaining, because Bobby, he goes at him, man. He's like, you definitely stole some stuff, man, and like you need to apologize for it. Carlos is like, the problem is like I'm not on the internet. I'm not on social media really.
Of course
So,
he is.
well, he's saying like he doesn't really have a voice on there.
So
So
an Instagram page.
yeah, but not he's not doing it. He's
He's
older.
on it all the time. No, I mean, he's come up with a bunch of different versions of why he is not at fault.
And Joe, I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not
No, I
defending
know
him
you're
at all.
not.
I'm just
I know
saying
you're
it was super interesting, because I only know your version, Ari's version. Bobby Lee tells me
Yeah.
about all these stories. I've heard all these stories. I've never had any interaction
He's
with
got
him.
a few different versions. One of
Yeah.
his versions is, I've recorded all my shows since 1993, and if I ever stole a joke, I would go back and say, listen, I could show you that I did it before you, or if I did, I'm sorry. Like, he's trying to find a way to excuse what everybody
behavior.
knows he did. What he was doing was copying other people's material, copying premises, and he was doing it openly.
Would it be a case where
you are absorbing, unbeknownst to your consciously doing it, unbeknownst to you, you're absorbing these things, and then kind of like, formulating a joke out of that thing that you didn't actively listen to. Could it be a case of that?
At that time, though, it's hard to believe that would have been the case at that time. First of all, at that time, during Minor Mencia, I wasn't at the comedy clubs like they say.
What would incentivize like a young comic, say for instance, to say?
Oh, I was hated. Listen, I was hated.
A lot of your material, I'm not saying all of it, right? And I don't even say most of it. You know what I mean? I think, I don't know percentage wise.
Sure.
But a lot of your material was a little too similar to the ilk of Paul Mooney or, Bill Hicks or,
Sure.
the Cosby thing was,
I wasn't
right. So my
inspired by
point,
those
I know my point
Hell
though
yes.
being is that, to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know what the percentage of it is. Secondly, right, I was there, and I'm not saying what's wrong or right, but you would do a long time on stage, and you would bump.
Yes.
A lot of these younger comics.
Now, what Carlos just did is a common tactic, or whatever you want to call it, but he does this throughout the podcast, where he will ask a very simple question that I think everybody knows the answer to, or make a very obviously false statement to Bobby Lee's face, as if he expects them to just ignore it or not answer it. In this situation, Bobby starts to answer the questions, and then he completely cuts him off, interrupts, and then starts rambling about something else until the subject is changed.
And a lot of these young comics that you bumped are the big comics of today. You know what I mean? Yeah, why you're in the situation that you're in right now.
So why attack
So
me
what I'm-
about
so
my
what
name?
I'm
But why
saying-
attack me about my name then?
I personally have never heard.
See, here's what I need.
But I just want to let me just finish my point
Yeah.
though. My point is that, if I were you,
yeah,
all right, I would do, a blanket apology. You know what I mean?
I just don't know who
move
to
on.
apologize
It's
to.
when Amy Schumer, right, apologized for stealing jokes, right? They
Right.
do a blanket apology. I'm so sorry that if I I hurt comics, not anyone specifically. I stole some jokes, and let's move on.
That's what was my next question, Ned. Was that
But she
Let's
did
move
that.
on.
But she did that on purpose.
say?
But it
I'm
was
sorry
muddled.
all
The
across
problem is what he said. It was muddled, right? It wasn't just the material thing. It's you're a fake Mexican. Your name is Ned, right? You run the riot. We don't like you because you bumped me. You're doing that's so. It didn't feel like none of those attacks felt like a genuine, authentic thing.
I see what you're saying.
It feels like
It felt like
don't like me. Like, why all this shit? Like, if it's material stuff, then let's talk about that.
Now, besides Carlos jumping from subject to subject, trying to very clearly avoid the questions, there is something that I noticed, and I think you might have noticed too if you saw the video version of the podcast, and that is that Carlos is actually wearing a Star Wars shirt that says, "I am your father." He is wearing it with a sweater on top that is open, and you can clearly see what the shirt says. Now, is there a chance that he did this on purpose in a way to send Bobby Lee a message that he is his comedy dad? Because Bobby Lee has said himself in the podcast that Carlos Mencia did help him out a lot, and he owes a lot to him. So there is no hiding that, but I just think it's maybe a weird coincidence.
I went on stage to confront Joe calling me Carlos Mencia because I wanted to know what it was all about. Here's what I mean by it gets muddled, and it's difficult. And all I want is for those guys to say, look, you did this, but because, trust me, comedians that have shit stolen from them, we remember what jokes those are. I can tell you all the jokes that comedians have told after me that I told them first.
You could tell that Carlos Mencia was getting uncomfortable and getting very defensive. And here's the thing. Carlos made this such a personal issue back then with, Rogan, Bobby Lee, and Ari Shaffir, especially with Joe Rogan. He made it such a personal. So ever since the now infamous Andrew Schultz and
That was him.
All right, well, we'll see. Let's keep going.
No, I'm serious, bro.
But I think you need to find yourself a little, man. I'm just trying to figure out where this took this turn. We're still talking about you. Where did this take this turn? We don't even have to have the mics on, bro.
Well, how about this? I mean, everyone's screaming we gotta go.
I think we
here,
gotta
guys.
wrap
All
up.
right,
I
guys.
think we gotta wrap up.
And it's almost been a whole year since he was brutally destroyed by Andrew Schultz in front of his entire fan base. And it seems like he actually has changed and matured a little bit, because recently the now UFC middleweight champion of the world was on the Full Send podcast and was completely destroying Steiny, throwing bombs straight to his face, just roasting him, saying the wildest stuff. And Steiny was there the whole time, just taking it, smiling, laughing, basically taking it like a champ. He definitely has a way stronger chin than Israel Adesanya. Obviously, I think we can all agree that Sean's persona is to say the wildest things and get people riled up. But this was similar to the Schultz episode because his assessment of Steiny was spot on, and Steiny's reaction was very, very interesting. So let's get started.
I'm sure at one point he's going to be joining your party.
What the?
Oh my
not.
god!
How do you get that vibe?
So let me tell you something about this, guys. I don't really watch like pop culture.
Yeah.
Like, I stay away from it, dude, because it's like cancer on the mind. But I did watch an interview with you and Dylan. Dylan's that name? I can't stand that guy.
Dylan Dennis?
Yeah, and I realized, bro, you're like, how old are you?
29.
You're like the, how old are you?
Percentage.
You're like the mature, reasonable guy that a little bit too tan, but you're the mature, reasonable guy, and you're more like the Weasley beta male in the group. But I think it's a good dichotomy. It's a good.
Going through a rebrand right now, so I'm just letting you know.
What's your rebrand?
Like more gym focus, more protecting, like values type shit.
Yeah, you seem a little bit like morally shady. Like I don't think I'd want like. Let me tell you, if I went away on a
That's why I know
vacation,
you're full of.
if I went on vacation, bro, and I came home and you were like having lunch at my my chicken, but if you were having lunch at my house, I would be like, oh, this guy's trying to a chick. You, bro, I think you're a little bit more trustworthy.
Thank you.
You just have that. This guy though.
What is there anything specific that gives you that kind of?
You know, just here, I'll tell you why.
Now, keep in mind that this was recorded before the Israel Adesanya fight, and it most likely got arranged through the Nelk Boys' connections with the UFC, which they're plugged up with Dana White. And I say that because they were actually prepared to interview Sean Strickland and definitely knew a lot of stuff about him. And here's the funny thing. Back when this happened with Andrew Schultz, when they had the whole argument on the podcast, Schultz did have a pretty good excuse or a good reason to why he was being mean to Steiny and going after him. And even if he didn't have an excuse, Andrew Schultz is still a comic and he has a podcast called Flagrant, so that literally means to be offensive. But the point is that with Andrew Schultz, a comic, Steiny was ready to take it outside, but with Sean Strickland, who is a fighter, Steiny was totally cool with it and being a good sport and just even asking how he could change being himself. I mean, it's funny, but it's not that bad. Again, at least it shows that he has grown and can actually take it without losing his mind, because if Sean had said those things last year, maybe it would have gone a lot different.
Because I don't watch.
Or any way I could fix that, maybe.
I don't watch podcasts. I'm just not really into it, dude, especially like the pop culture, bro. It's cancer for the brain. It's like,
Yeah,
and again, you guys have made a lot of money off this, so I respect you, man. You guys are crushing.
I feel you though. Social media it's definitely toxic.
But like I was watching, so I was like, I'm gonna get to know these guys a little bit. So I watched you and Dylan Dennis, and you were more like the reasonable one. Like you were being a little beta. You wanted to tell him what's up. You wanted to say, hey, dude, talking about that guy's wife, you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't do it, and you're a scumbag. But you were a little bit more like
folded.
Yeah, you a little bit more. You folded a little bit more.
Yeah,
like you were a little bit more like I'm gonna stop and be part of the club.
Yeah. But that's not part of the club because most people feel how you do about him. And
no, but I'm saying, but what I'm telling you though, it's like, it's harder to be this guy to say, hey, like it's harder to be this guy to say, hey, what you're doing is not right. You know, there was a point in our country where if you implied a man's wife was it'd fucking kill you. And that's a harder position to take than to kind of be a little bit more weaselly. What's your name again?
But you need a balance of it, Steiny.
Oh, it's kind of Weasley, Steinley, you know, that kind of goes a little bit, bro.
That's happened every time.
We're going to rebrand you.
It's just research. I don't know.
And even though Sean did have some negative comments about the Full Send podcast after he did it, I think he was mostly trolling because for the most part, he was nice to both of them, to both Kyle and Steiny. Obviously, he was going in super hard on Steiny, saying some pretty rough stuff. But again, Steiny took it like a champ, except for when he implied that Sean Strickland was doing research on Steiny, and that's why he was bashing him, because there's no way that Sean was watching videos about how hated Steiny was before going into the podcast. He clearly explained that he made up his mind after watching him and Kyle interview Dylan Dennis, which I kind of have to agree with to an extent, because I've mentioned this before, and there's really not much you can do when you invite a guest on your podcast. You either want to platform somebody or you don't. But it's really unproductive to have somebody on and try to fight with them, because if that's the case, might as well just set up a debate and then actually go at each other, knowing that that's the goal. Because you could also say the same thing about Sean. The way that he's promoting the fight with Israel Adesanya is that he's saying some crazy stuff to him, but he draws the line when somebody talks about somebody's wife, which I guess, fair enough. By the way, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, we're close to getting 100,000 subs, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
So he's like a blue collar guy.
Yeah.
Mom?
I was just like, my mom did like customer service for like a
No,
company.
so he's more blue collar than this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't rich or poor. Just like my area is like 25 minutes outside Toronto. Just like
Why is that?
so
Why is it such a
fucking-
bad thing though? If we come from different backgrounds like that.
You know, it become because you are the modern day male, sir. I look at you.
But why should like me or him be punished for something like that?
No, I don't punish you. I think he's more morally in line with me than you're morally in line with me. But sir, you are the modern day doughboy cupcake man, my friend, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're a nice guy. I'm not saying this to insult you.
No,
but
you're
somebody your wife in front of you, and you'd probably let do it.
Absolutely not.
Once again, I think it's worth pointing out that it looks like Steiny has actually improved and learned from that last experience, because I guess you could make the argument that he was scared of Sean Strickland, but I don't think that's the case, because he could have still made a huge deal about making cuts, about potentially not airing the whole episode. And funny enough, I don't think requesting cuts or for something to be cut out in this specific episode is that insane, because what Sean was saying to Steiny wasn't really adding to the conversation and was mostly for our pleasure and for entertainment purposes. And when it comes to podcasting, Sean is a fun guest if you can ignore the fact that he interrupts way more than Brendan Schaub. And once again, it does seem like Steiny has been improving, which is good, because sure, the clips and all that get a lot of views, but it was quickly catching up to him, and he was becoming that guy and becoming the most disliked out of the whole group. Not only that, but the internet was also starting to dislike him.
But it's funny because when Schultz said about his character, there are times like where I know that, like, because he'll play the victim a lot. Like with me, he'll try to bully me and then get a reaction because it's funny for a clip, and I get it because like I understand the value of that.
Yes.
Like the big guy getting mad. But then like I think
either way, it's been about 5 days and the episode is completely killing it, and I'm sure it helps that now Sean has become a superstar over the weekend. Which brings us to our next and final point that is mostly related to the MMA field. Now this is very interesting because listening to Sean Strickland explain and talk about his expectations for the Israel Adesanya fight is completely mind-blowing, and I think it's a perfect example of it's a good mindset that you should have when approaching these super hard challenges. Basically, prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Izzy, again, you guys, Izzy, this fight. You see all my other fights, I don't get hit. That's not this fight. I'm up this fight. I'm gonna be leaving this fight bloodied, broken nose, black eye, maybe some broken bones. Like, this isn't the fight where I could go, most top 10 guys, I could stick, I could jab, I can move. Izzy's not the fight. It's gonna suck.
But yeah, that episode was pretty good, and if you like MMA, I think you'll like that episode. There's a little bit of everything here and there, but the most interesting part was obviously Steiny's reaction to him getting completely flamed. And you can let me know in the comments below if you think Steiny has actually changed, matured, and become a better podcaster, or if he was acting that way just because it was Sean Strickland. Yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Once again, we're so close to 100,000 subs, and it really helps out a ton. Follow me on IG if you would like to connect. I don't post a lot there, but it's more personal stuff. So again, we can connect there if you want. Dislike if you didn't like the video. But that is all we have for today. See ya. So about 6 months ago, Theo Vaughn went on Dave Portnoy's podcast.
Beat the shit.
Can you get your tape measure on this for me, please? From top. So 75 and a half at top. And at bottom, 71. You can see it's just been put in diagonal. Can you get your tape measure on this for me, please? From top. So 75 and a half at top. And at bottom, 71. You can see it's just been put in diagonal. Can you get your tape measure on this for me, please? From top. So 75 and a half at top.
Yo, what is up, YouTube Nation? We are back with another banger of a video. I actually can't stop thinking about this. I can't stop laughing about this. This is way too hilarious. I cannot believe this happened yesterday when I was streaming. So I was running around on Hardcore WoW, as you do. And you guys know, I like to run around, challenge some random people to Makoros. You know, it's completely impossible to win. Sleep him outside the zone. And then the timer, you know, that you're outside of the... I'm not sure if anybody can translate that in the comments. In the L anyway, dude. So that's just instant karma if I've ever... But instead, he became the ad revenue. Like, subscribe, and comment.
So Ali Dawa posted a video about Sneeko where he gave him some advice about Islam. And recently, Sneeko came across the video on his Rumble stream and reacted to it. This is how it went.
You're from Ali Dawa. Okay. Muslims can't buy real estate?
No, you can't buy real estate, but he's saying you can't take a loan on it because you pay interest with loans.
But that's like some of the basics of real estate.
That's exactly.
You see that bad edit chat?
It's your brother Uthman from One Ummah Charity. I'm here on the ground. As you can see behind me, this is a home that has been destroyed by the earthquake. Alhamdulillah, what I have in my hand...
Somebody send me the right thing to donate to in Morocco. Prayers to Morocco channel.
And is our food pack that we're giving to these victims that have been suffering from the earthquake, my brothers and sisters. We need your support. You know, these brothers and sisters, what they've done is they've come together as a community and made a communal kitchen where they can cook this stuff. This is why we're giving out milk, tomato puree.
Okay, get it, but skip. Chat, is that bad to skip a charity?
I'm supporting One Ummah. We operate on a 100% donation policy.
This is a video to Sneeko and Myron, and I'm calling them to a live discussion because I think there's so many misconceptions that's happening. You know, pertaining.
I don't think Myron's gonna do it, but I'll do it.
Many matters. They've done a reaction video to my video, so there's a misunderstanding. And recently, Sneeko done a video about, oh my gosh, interest is haram as well.
Muslims can't buy real estate?
No, you can't buy.
Why do you make my voice sound soy?
Real estate, but he's saying you can't take a loan on it because you pay interest with loans.
But that's like some of the basics of real estate.
That's exactly.
I want to say something to those people in the comment section. Please understand something. Yes?
Okay, he's talking to you, chat. Listen up.
That Ali radiallahu anh said, do not tell the people what they're not ready to hear. Do you want them to disbelieve in Allah and His Messenger? All of us have a different faith. When he's new, stop saying this is haram, this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. Like Aisha radiallahu anha said, if Islam was to come with prohibitions, halal and haram, nobody would have come to Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the creation. That's why He gave certain commandments slowly and slowly and slowly, so people's imans can grow. Subhanallah. That's what Allah in the Quran says to the Bedouins. They say we believe. Don't say you believe yet. Say you have submitted. Allah differentiates between a Muslim and a mu'min. Every mu'min is a Muslim, but not every Muslim is a mu'min. A mu'min is a believer who...
The grifter allegations have been lifted.
believes, so that's the yaqeen, certainty. So for you guys to go and pick on Sneeko, you're putting him off. He needs to understand the concept. When I first came to Islam, there was... first things I was like, what? Really? When I heard that the Sahabas fought each other, I was like, no way. The best of people, but this happened. It's a reality. It teaches us a lesson. But we need to be very, very careful. So therefore, I'm inviting my brother Sneeko and my brother Myron. Please, I would love to have a live discussion with you guys. And
I will do it, inshallah.
We can talk about all of these matters to Islam. Whatever I know, anything that I don't know, I would try my best to point you guys in the right direction. But it would be nice to sit down and talk about when it comes to different matters of, women, money, status, all that kind of stuff. We can talk about all of that. So to my brother Sneeko, just understand that an example that I'm going to give you if you do the live of Iblis, Shaitan, and Adam, this will give you a direct answer to the issue of interest. Yes, trust me, you will totally understand, and a lot of things in Islam will make sense to you. This is the advice that I want to give you.
I know exactly why it's satanic and why it's bad and why it's a control mechanism. I get it.
Person alive, or we can do it without. It doesn't need to be on camera. I genuinely, it's not about the camera. I promise you. If you guys want a freeway conversation off.
Wait, I can't monetize the chat? Wait, I'm chilling. We talking
camera, on Zoom or whatever, off camera, I am more than happy. If you guys want a freeway conversation off camera, on Zoom or whatever, off camera, I am more than happy to do this. It doesn't need to be on camera. Believe me, I don't give a damn about that. That's not important for me. So brother Sneeko, if you're watching this, understand, take it step and slowly. Ignore the Muslims that are throwing this haram, that haram. Gradual process. It took me 10 years to come where I am, and I've got a...
What the... Why does he look like an emo rock
long
band
journey
player?
to go. So take it easy. Don't let people overwhelm you, and it's going to be overburdening for you, and you're going to end up crumbling. Don't. Take it easy at a time. Don't take...
Chat. Allahu Akbar! Oh! Restart. Give me a second. Am I back? Talk to me, chat. We should be good.
Take everything that people in the comments say. There are a lot of enemies of Islam that are saying things just to put you off. So in a nutshell, say, my brother Sneeko, that understand everything Allah has legislated, there is a reason behind it. There's the wisdoms behind it, and there's a reason behind it as well. So just bear that in mind, and believe me, there is so much more barakah. Once we understand, have a relationship with Allah, the reason you're saying this stuff is because you're still a Muslim. Once you reach the stage of being a mu'min, a true believer, like a true where you're like, this makes sense to me. I have trust in God. If God says, look, I live in a one-bedroom flat, I pay £1,200 a month. It is really expensive. With my 3 daughters, I am somebody that if I want, I can make, like, argument's sake, like, if I want, it's £250,000 a year. Yeah, okay, I can make it. But the point is, I'm not concerned about money. My aim is not motivation, money, let me have a mansion. I don't care about this life. Yes, this doesn't mean I'm making my family. Alhamdulillah, we are good. We are more than happy. We are more happy and content with this rent than me going and buying a house on interest.
Wait a second. Chat, did I just beat every single grifter allegation? For real, bro? I think I just beat that. Like, sorry for cursing, but did I just bob and weave all the haram police? Did they try to arrest me? Did I beat the charges with one verse? Yup. No more grifto, chat. It's done. No more grifto. They don't care. I beat it. Allahu Akbar!
Which is as good as waging war against Allah and His Messenger. It's a major sin. So to me, I am more than happy to be in a one-bedroom flat for the rest of my life, even if it means I sleep on the sofa and my family sleep on the bed, or I sleep on the floor. As long as we are pleasing Allah and He is happy with me, I don't give a damn what anybody says.
Oh, damn! Wait, can you say that or no? Costa says, Sneeko, what is absolute most important piece of life advice would you like to give to chat right now? Most important piece of life advice right now is believe in something greater than yourself. That's the best thing that will guide you forward.
I don't care. The reason why I don't do that. However, if I had some money saved, if I was making some money and I had the means to buy a house, or there's different means of halal ways of buying a property, of course I would do that. I'm not going to say no to that because it's halal. Doing business is permissible. It's interest that is not permissible because it takes advantage of the weak and makes the poor poorer and the rich richer. It's the whole system that destroys you as a whole, and this is the reason why the economic system that we're in collapses here and there.
I know, I get it completely. I understand why, but it's just like, it is pretty standard stuff to get involved in when you're doing real estate. I would say the number one thing that helps me beat the grifter allegations is this tweet that I had from 2014. I'm gonna pull it up right now because I'm getting a lot of them right now. But what is it? Sneeko, Twitter, Malcolm X. I have been thinking about converting to Islam since I was maybe 12. Sneeko, Twitter, Malcolm X. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. tweet. Oh, 2015. Gotta admit, after doing extended research on Malcolm X, I seriously considered converting to Islam. Almost a decade ago, chat, bro. Almost a decade ago. So every time I get the grift allegations, this is why it's good to... I'm going to give this another retweet right now. I'm going to give this another retweet because people like all day long, man. I get a lot of them. Have you noticed that Neon and Fuzi don't get any? Have you noticed that? Like all day long. Or maybe I just read the chat too much. Maybe just give it attention, but... Don't let the internet dictate your faith. Oh, Allah knows your true intentions, and you know in your heart whether or not you believe or not. So you can't listen to random people on the internet. But I do get a lot of. I'm victim mindset. Who cares?
Every now and then. So the Islamic principle, the way it's done, business is permissible. You can do business. You're a businessman, carry on doing business. But interest is not permissible, my dear brother. However, we'll speak of that, inshallah. And please understand, the blessings of God in a one-bedroom flat, it is more beloved, and there'll be so much more blessings than being in a mansion at the displeasure of God. And there will be no blessing in that house. Now, I'm not saying if you've already bought a house, that's fine, because you didn't know. We're just talking about taking gradual steps, knowing and understanding. That's all I want to say, inshallah. And know that happiness, contentment, peace in the heart, blessings come from God, not how big your mansion or house is. And the risk means what? The queen has a massive palace, hundreds of bedrooms. She only gets to sleep in one. Many toilets. She gets to only defecate in one. Yes, she has so many foods to eat. She can only eat a certain amount, which means what? That is what has been written and dedicated to her by God Almighty. So the point is what? Let the blessings and the happiness and the contentment come from God, even if you're sleeping on a...
He's saying a lot of what I would... He's saying a lot...
Jeg har brugt det meste af mit liv bag min computerskærm, brugt adskillige timer på diverse computerspil. Jeg spiller alt for meget CSGO. Og levet trygt inden for gamerrummets 4 rammer. Men nu er det på tide at udfordre mig selv. Jeg vil gerne ud og dyrke en masse af mine interesser. Også ting, jeg aldrig har prøvet før. Og forhåbentlig bliver jeg en del klogere. Forhåbentlig bliver I en del klogere. I hvert fald, velkommen til min nye serie, Ifølge Mark. Dengang jeg var 17 år gammel, der startede min iværksætterrejse for allerførste gang. Jeg havde lige startet min første virksomhed, og jeg havde en kæmpe interesse i iværksætteri, og jeg drømte også en dag om at kunne leve af dem. Lige bag ved mig, der er Business Park Randers, hvor jeg blev en del af et ungt iværksættermiljø. Man kan sige i dag, at min drøm delvist er gået i opfyldelse, fordi at jeg har fået en virksomhed, for det jeg laver på YouTube er en form for virksomhed. Men det vi skal ud og lave i morgen er en langt større kaliber end det jeg laver overhovedet. Fordi i morgen, så skal vi forbi et vaskeægte iværksætter-succeshistorie, og det glæder jeg mig til. I dag, så går turen til Aarhus. Jeg har været oppe siden klokken 6 i dag, men klokken er faktisk 9 lige nu, og det er simpelthen fordi, at lastbilchaufføren i dag har valgt at strække ved alle motorvejs afkørsler og indkørsler. Men nu er vi på vej. Jeg glæder mig til at blive en del klogere på iværksætteri og lære en masse om iværksætteruniverset, og jeg ved, det bliver en pissegod dag, og jeg har virkelig set frem til det her. Det bliver så fedt. Let's go! Nu står vi uden foran Didur her i Aarhus. De fleste af jer nok gætte ud fra titlen, at det var Didur, jeg skulle besøge i dag. Og jeg glæder mig mega meget. Vi skal følge Mikkel, som er direktør for Didur i dag, og følge ham en hel dag, hvad han skal i løbet af sådan en hverdag, når man er iværksætter og direktør for sådan en stor firma som Didur. Så det glæder mig til. Skal vi ikke gå indenfor og så se, hvad det kan? Lad os gøre det!
Mark, her, der står vi i vores butik, som er jo noget af det første, man kommer ind til, når man kommer her til domicilet. Jeg kunne faktisk godt tænke mig at lige starte med at få vist dig rundt, blandt andet i butikken her, men faktisk også i hele domicilet.
Pisse fedt.
Så det første kunderne, og i øvrigt også kollegaer og så videre møder, det er jo butikken her, man kommer ind i, og relativt stor butik. Ja. Vi kom jo fra 800 kvadratmeter, 500 meter den vej, så vi har et domicil, der ligger deroppe af, som vi så har lejet ud i dag. Og så når det så var Black Friday, det der travle periode, så stod der 60 mennesker ude foran i kø, så tænkte nu skal vi have nok plads.
Jamen det ligger lidt i et industrikvarter, det her, gør det?
Det gør det, og der sker ikke så meget lige nu, men omkring frokost og eftermiddag, der sker rigtig meget. Så kommer folk ud og henter deres uger, og så kører de flere uger, eller kommer ud og ved, at de kan se alle. Vi har cirka 12.000 varenumre, og de kan se alle varer her. Men i hvert fald det første, man møder, så tænker jeg, at vi kan hoppe ud i vores...
Giver det sådan ekstra, at I displayer, altså for nogle af de der mærker, giver de sådan nogle ekstra rabatter, eller hvordan fungerer det?
Ja, det er faktisk lidt sådan, det fungerer. Eller nogle af dem er også sådan, for eksempel har du Psycho her. Vi kan egentlig ikke få lov til at få de rigtige aftaler med Psycho, hvis vi ikke har en flot display. Så det er sådan lidt sådan,
Det er et krav nærmest.
Forsimplet, forsimplet er det et krav eller en del af din kontraktuelle forhold med dem.
Ja, så hvis der kommer en ung iværksætter, de har skabt deres eget urbrand, måske har de en butik eller webshop eller et eller andet, men de har kun deres eget ur, og de gerne vil have det displayet ved jer, så skal de selv.
Hvis der kommer nogen vi godt kan lide, så skal vi jo bare hjælpe dem. Så skal vi bare hjælpe dem. Men ellers så lidt den her, hvem har hammeren? Hvor hvis der kommer et lille brand, og de bare synes, de er det fedeste i hele verden, må vi ikke nok være hos jer, så er det jo os, der har kraften i forhandlingen. Og så andre gange, så er der Psycho et kæmpe stort brand. Så kommer der nogle kæmpe store mastodonter, og så siger de, hvis I skal have vores mærke, så er det dem, der har hammeren, ikke? Så skal I gøre sådan.
Så der er de den hårde forhandler.
Der er de den hårde.
Ja, men det er jo sådan businessbranchen er, men det er jo spændende nok at vide.
Herude, der spiser vi vores frokost, men vi forsøgte sådan at skabe et miljø.
Det er jo skide flot her. Altså, jeg synes, det er et fedt arbejdsmiljø.
Vi forsøgte sådan, vi forsøgte at skabe et miljø herude, hvor det ikke bare er sådan, sådan en klassisk kantinebord, stole op, og så kan der bare vaskes under, så sådan skabt nogle rammer, hvor det måske bliver lidt mere hyggeligt. Og så er vi jo mange unge mennesker, så når det er torsdag eller fredag, så er der vinkøleskab herover og der er kage. Det kan være, vi skal have sådan noget lige lidt. Vin på køl og øl i køleskabene, og stort tillykke. Og så har vi lavet sådan et loungeområde, så for at skabe et miljø, hvor vi ligesom føler, at vi kan bryde de der sådan, man bruger det normalt, bruger man jo kun en kantine fra 11:30 til 12:30, så er vi tom. Så vi faktisk nogle gange sidder hernede og holder møder, eller sidder hernede og hygger.
Så når der er fyreaften sådan fredag, så tager man lige en god vin ud, hvis der har været nogle gode tal eller et eller andet.
De må tage alt, hvad de vil over i køleskabet, så det er bare at tage, du må ikke tage med hjem.
Nej, det er kun her, det bliver drukket.
Du må åbne den her og drikke den her, men ellers så tager man bare og drikker. Hvis vi er lidt mindre, og det skal nok vise lige om lidt, så sidder vi faktisk ovenpå. Der er sådan et rum, hvor man kan spille bordtennis og Formel 1-simulator.
Der har jeg set mange virksomheder har det bordtennis der.
Ja, det kan altså noget.
Ja. Og I har simpelthen paddeltennis direkte til medarbejderen. Ej, det er jo fuldstændig sindssygt, man har det.
Og det er lidt på samme måde som vinen. Så er det til fri afbenyttelse for alle, der gerne vil spille.
Også. Jamen, det er det hele. Men det er jo sådan en rigtig luksus, I giver jeres, jeres medarbejdere.
Og det er jo sådan lidt, nogen spørger, har I bygget til jer selv eller til jeres ansatte? Jeg tror sådan hele domicilet her er lidt et eksempel på, at vi har tænkt, at vi vil bare gerne skabe nogle rammer, hvor det er fedt at være en del af et miljø. Det der med, hvor mange penge kan du tjene i morgen, og hvor mange penge tjener du i går, det er ikke altid det vigtigste. Det vigtigste er faktisk, hvor sjovt er det at komme på arbejde, og hvor godt har du det med dine kollegaer.
Hvis du elsker dit arbejde, så gør de jo også en større indsats for at beholde sit arbejde og vise, at de gider det.
Præcis. Jeg tror, at det er ikke fordi, jeg blev en kernesocialist eller noget, men det vi fandt ud af, det var, at de bløde værdier kan faktisk være med til at skabe væksten og de sorte tal på bundlinjen.
Hvad koster sådan en? Det er jo nysgerrig på. Hvad koster det at sætte sådan noget herop?
Der var faktisk en på TikTok, der skrev, at det var virkelig mange penge. Det koster 250.000, og så kom jeg til at sige kun 250.000.
Jamen det synes jeg da også. Jeg synes da ikke, det er galt. Altså det var...
Nej.
Altså, og man trækker det fra i virksomheden, fordi det er en investering til ens medarbejdere.
Det er også det, jeg ved godt, 250.000 er meget, men i relief, så kan man sige, hvis vi skal for eksempel kantinen ud, et bord og 12 stole og vinkøleskab og alt muligt andet, det koster bare, og det her det holder i 10 år plus, og det bliver brugt hver dag, så er det 250.000 kroner.
Jeg har sgu ikke set det her før i hvert fald, at der er paddelbane, og det var sgu en ny ting for mig.
Jeg tror også, vi var nogle af de første.
Ja.
Men,
jeg synes, det er mega fedt.
Jeg tror, flere begynder at gøre det. Vi er også virkelig glade for det. Her har vi den kreative afdeling, som Mads står i spidsen for. Så har vi teamet, der sidder sådan med mest website, hvor vi har Simon hernede, der sidder med al udvikling.
Ja.
Så har vi marketing. Mere marketing. Head of marketing står derovre. Indkøb.
Der står nogle tal deroppe.
Ja, det er indkøbsdashboardet.
Ja, hvad I tjener på hver enkelt vare.
Det grundlæggende kan vise de her dashboards. Det er, at de har nogle mål i indkøb for, hvor meget skal de have hævet brandet i indtjening. Så 2022, kan jeg godt afsløre, var ikke det bedste år for os. Vi tjente helt stadig penge, men vi stod i en situation, hvor vi godt kunne se, at vi måske nødt til at have endnu mere fokus på vores dækningsgrad. Ja. Vi var nødt til at tjene under 1% af vores omsætning.
Kan du ikke lige forklare folk, som ikke ved det derude, hvad dækningsgrad er?
Dækningsgrad er, hvor meget vi tjener i procent af en vare. Ja. Så hvis vi sælger den her vare til 1000 kroner, hvad er vores dækningsgrad så på den? Det kunne så f.eks. være 40%. Ja. Hvor meget har vi så givet for den? Så 40% af de 1000 kroner er det, vi tjener.
Lige præcis.
400 kroner. Og der arbejder vi selvfølgelig meget med dækningsgrad, og så arbejder vi også meget med dækningsbidrag. Og hvorfor arbejder vi også med dækningsbidrag? Det kunne måske være relevant at sige. For det er, hvis den kun kostede 100 kroner, så kunne det være, at det så ud som om, at den havde 40%, det er godt. Men hvis det kun er 100 kroner, den koster, så tjener du kun 40 kroner. Og hvis du kun tjener 40 kroner, så skal du huske at indregne, at dem nede på lager, de koster altså det samme for at pakke og plukke. Og så bliver dækningsbidraget altså spist lidt, så derfor arbejder vi med, nu bliver det lidt kompliceret, med det, der hedder DB2 og DB3, hvor man så begynder at tage lokale omkostninger, lageromkostninger og alt det med ned, administrationsomkostninger, med ned i varen, og så kigger man. Og derfor så er det nogle gange bedre at sælge dyre varer. Ja. Fordi hvis en vare koster 2.000, så er der flere penge til at dække de faste omkostninger.
Det lyder til, at du har meget styr på det område der.
Det kunne jeg også have mere styr på, vil jeg sige.
Ja, jeg har faktisk lidt spørgsmål, Mikkel, inden du går videre. Og det er, hvordan det er at arbejde sammen med din bror. Fordi det er jo lidt specielt, at du i del af virksomheden sammen går ud fra.
Der er nogle klare fordele ved at arbejde sammen med sin bror, og der er nogle klare ulemper. Og det er sjovt nok faktisk på nogle punkter lidt det samme. Jeg kan sige, en af dem er, at vi er rigtig gode til at være uenige. Faktisk så minder vi er jo enæggede tvillinger. Vi ligner hinanden rigtig meget, og vi minder ekstremt meget om hinanden.
Men I tænker ikke ens?
Det gør vi også på nogle punkter, men årsagen til, at vi ender med at være uenige, er, at vi begge to er ekstremt konkurrencemennesker, og vi begge to gerne vil have ret. Så hvis han præsenterer mig for en mening og en holdning, som jeg nok ret beset er enig med ham i, jeg kan godt sige, at det er sgu da meget rigtigt, men så leder jeg efter hullerne i osten, fordi jeg ser næsten hver ting som en diskussion. Så jeg vil gerne vinde den diskussion.
Du vil gerne lige overgå det.
Præcis. Så sådan, jamen du siger, at vi skal have det brand, fordi, og så siger jeg, det synes jeg ikke, fordi sådan. Og så bliver vi sgu lidt uvenner nogle gange. Ja. Og det er en ulempe. Vi to kunne sagtens være makker og partner, men den dag det går helt af helvede til, så selv ligegyldigt hvor meget jeg stoler på dig, så kan jeg ikke være 100% sikker på, at du har min ryg. Nej. Det kan jeg ikke være 100%
kan du med din bror, ja.
Det kan jeg være 100% sikker på, at om det så er dybe finansielle problemer, eller hvad det er, eller ligegyldigt hvor meget jeg har fucket op, så ved jeg, at han har min ryg. Ja. Og det er nok den fortrøstning i at være to om det. Så det vil jeg også anbefale til andre iværksættere, at finde en partner. Nogen vil sige, at det er sundt at være to brødre, der tænker så ens, men jeg synes, vi er gode til at finde en relation i det der. Jeg tager dig med her, Mark, i nok vores mest brugte mødelokaler, og jeg vil bare lige sætte på ord på det, så vi er jo hoppet ned i det bløde her. Ja. Og det kunne godt virke lidt som sådan en show-off rum, ikke? Og der er vinpildeskab og klædeskab, ikke? Men
det er jo bare boss, altså det er jo fedt.
Vi er ekstremt glade for det. Da vi byggede det, der var vi lidt sådan, vi kommer nok ikke til at bruge det så meget, men det bliver meget fedt. Så er det faktisk endt med, at det er oprigtigt det mest brugte mødelokale. Hver gang jeg har et møde med mine kollegaer, så spørger vi altid hinanden, skal vi ikke lige sætte os ind i bløde? Fordi det er jo bare rart at sidde herinde, det er hyggeligt, og det giver sådan en vibe, så hvis jeg skulle gøre noget om i det domicil, du nu næsten har set færdigt, så vil jeg faktisk bygge flere mødelokaler med rene loungeområder. Altså så ikke noget...
Hvor det er chill, ikke?
Ja, hvor du bare sætter ned og slapper af og tager en rolig snak omkring, hvordan går det, og hvordan ser tallene ud, og
har du haft nogle store, hvad skal man sige, andre erhvervsmænd herinde, hvor I lige har taget måske en Dom Perignon og lige fyret en cigar herinde? Fordi det giver mig sådan lidt sådan en vibe, at det er mega chef, det rum her.
Jeg vil sige, at jeg har haft mange meget mere succesfulde iværksættere og entreprenører herinde end mig, som alle sammen har været meget imponeret over rummet. Jeg har ikke tilbudt mere min Dom Perignons. Det har jeg
og heller ikke en cigar?
Nej, det vil ikke noget.
Jeg synes, diversiteten er rigtig god i jeres lokaler, vil jeg bare sige. Dig og din bror, I jo hjernerne bag det her, og I skal jo bruge sådan noget her også, hvis I har møder med nogle leverandører eller et eller andet, så er det mega fedt at smide folk herinde. Det viser også en form for professionalisme, og det giver bare et indtryk, det her har jeg sgu lyst til at være en del af.
Og det er, når vi har leverandører, eller vi har jo haft vicedirektører eller direktører med fra nogle af de helt store de helt store urgrupper med herinde. Ja. Når det kommer med herinde, så de tager bare, altså jeg siger ikke, at det gør de til en mere seriøst, men det giver bare sådan et indtryk af, okay, de har sgu styr på deres ting. Ja. De ved, hvordan man laver et fedt lokale, det kan være, de også ved, hvordan man styrer forretningen godt så. Skal vi
lad os smutte videre. Nu kommer vi til det.
Ja, nu sker der noget her. Kig ned til læreret, ikke?
Nej, så er I også racersimulator, så kan man se ned til paddler. Det er fedt, det her.
Hvis vi er 5-10 mand til en torsdag eller fredagsøl, så sidder vi faktisk også nogle heroppe. Nu tror jeg, når det bliver sommer, så tror jeg næsten altid, vi vil sidde nedenunder, hvor der er sol. Men det er bare fedt sted at sidde i møblerne heroppe, og så nu ser vi med lounge-området, jeg er bare mega glad for loungen herinde, og så bliver det også brugt meget til møder. Ja. Altså fint sted, du kan lukke døren, ikke? Og så sidde og holde møde herovre.
Altså jeg synes, det er mega fedt. Altså.
Og så kig ned til paddelhallen, så du kan vente på, at det bliver din tur.
Hvor meget må jeres medarbejdere bruge det her? Altså hvor meget i løbet af deres arbejdstid må de være herinde og fyre den af?
Et godt spørgsmål, fordi vi har jo ikke som sådan et reglement, altså ikke sådan, der står ikke for vildt, hvad de må. Jeg vil sige, vi forsøger nok at være sådan lidt respektfulde omkring det, fordi du kan se lige dernede, der står de knokler. Og lad os sige, vi stod heroppe 10 mand og bare stod og grinede og spillede på runden af bordet kl. 12, og de har en kort over kl. 11 eller noget, ikke? Jeg føler mig så sådan, vi bruger det mest efter arbejde. Og så er der nogle gange, så tager man lige en slag bordtennis omkring frokostpausen eller løbet af dagen. Men vi er mest herinde efter arbejde. Og det er faktisk lidt det samme med paddel. Det er jo ikke noget galt i at spille paddel fra 8 til 10, og så kan du så bare arbejde fra kl. 16 til 18 i stedet for, eller arbejde for at løse din opgave på derhjemme om aftenen i stedet for. Ja. Men den måde, vi får det til at fungere på, er nok, at vi mest gør tingene efter arbejde. Så ind på arbejde bagefter. Ja.
Jeg har faktisk læst, at Dope havde vist et af de vildeste arbejdssteder, hvor de bare havde frit rum til at gøre, hvad de ville. Der var ikke nogen krav, fordi de vidste, at deres medarbejdere nok skulle få det gjort. Ja, så det var fuldstændig frit.
Men det er det, vi snakker om tidligere, det med at skabe den rigtige motivation. Ja. Fordi hvad skaber du, hvis jeg sagde til dig, Mark, du skal komme kl. 7.30, og du skal gå kl. 17.30, og det vil jeg have. Og hvis du så sad en dag på din plads bare så tænker, hvad skal jeg lave? Men det vil være mega demotiverende. Ja, det er bedre bare at sige, Mark, jeg har den opgave her. vil gerne have, at du bliver verdensmester i det her. Hvordan du gør det, det bestemmer du, men gør det på din måde. Så tror jeg, så kommer du til at brænde mere for det. Så har vi selve læret, men vi kører faktisk et meget simpelt lær-setup. Så du kan se nedad her, der er Karoline, tror jeg, står deromme. Hun er i gang med at pakke Norge Bring, så det grunden til, at den er fyldt nu, har det garanteret, fordi de har et cut-off. For når har vi cut-off til Norge?
Hvad betyder cut-off?
Cut-off, det vil sige, hvornår kan vi sidst nå at få pakket en pakke, og så giver vi den til leveringsmand, og så skal den så til Norge, nå afsted til Norge. Og det er så kl. 15, de kommer her og afhenter. Så vi siger til dig som kunde, inden kl. 11, så har vi alligevel lige de her timer fra kl. 11 til 15 til at nå at pakke og gøre alt færdigt. For der kan godt hobe sig et ordentligt stak op, jo.
Hvor hvis man bestiller i Norge, lad os sige inden kl. 15, og I når at pakke den her i dag, hvornår kommer den så til Norge?
Optimalt set i morgen.
I morgen?
Typisk i overmorgen. Og derfor så skal vi 2 til 3 dage, for vi vil aldrig love noget, som vi ikke kan holde. Så vi kan hellere overraske positivt.
Hurtiglevering, det er i hvert fald noget, jeg sætter pris på som forbruger.
Så meget simpelt setup i virkeligheden. Nu ved jeg ikke, hvor mange lager du har været på, men der er jo nogen, så er det jo robotter og...
Det var lige det, jeg skulle til at spørge om. Hvornår får I et robotlager? Jeg har jo nemlig et samarbejde med ProShop, og der har jeg set deres robotlager, det må jeg bare sige. Det var jeg virkelig imponeret over. Ja. Så det er bare et spørgsmål, altså også med kunstig intelligens og robotter. Ja. Det kommer jo på et tidspunkt.
Hvis jeg skal sige noget, så kan vi rigtig godt lide at have et lærerteam, og have folk, vi kan gå ned og snakke med, og så er der en meget stor skalerbarhed. ProShop havde jo det så 2 år siden nu her, med deres gamle robotlager, problem i, at de kunne håndtere 15.000 ordre om dagen. Nu siger jeg noget, jeg er ret sikker på det tal, men lad os bare sige cirka. Og så fik de måske 30 eller 40.000 ordre om dagen. Ja. Det er jo så træls, så dag 1, så er du en dag efter. Ja. Men når der så kommer 30-40.000 ordre dagen efter igen i coronatid, så er du så 2 dage bagefter. Og der så kom hver en måned, så sidst så var de næsten 30-60 dage bagefter. Og de kunne ikke gøre noget, for deres robot den kunne ikke arbejde hurtigere. Nej. Hvor hvis, det var det, de sagde dengang, det er, at de ville måske ønske, at de havde de gamle rammer, for så havde de jo bare hyret en masse folk ind og så sagt, lad os bare holde døgnet åben og så bare køre igennem. Det kunne faktisk være meget sjovt at lige give dig en udfordring i, og bare lige prøve, og jeg lige kan introducere dig til, hvordan plukker vi en ordre. Så pluk den, pak den, og så få lagt den over i den sæk, du skal over i, den postbil over til. Og så kan vi tage resten af rundvisningen bagefter.
Ja, lad os gøre det. Det skal nok blive spændende. Altså, jeg arbejder i Føtex på et tidspunkt, ikke? Så jeg ved ikke, om det minder lidt om det.
Ja, det er et godt spørgsmål. Vi skal lige se, om vi kan få en plukseddel. Skal vi bruge den her?
Yes.
Så du ser på ordresedlen her.
Men det er svensk, det der.
Og personen, han skal have 2 dissingure. Det var meget fedt. Ja. Og lad os lige prøve at gå herned og kigge.
Ja, fordi A010.
Ja. Det, der er en lille smule forvirrende, ikke? Det er, der står 010, men det betyder i virkeligheden 1. Det er så rækken. Det vil sige, at du skal på række 1, og det næste vare er på række 71. Okay? Ja. Det næste tal i rækken, så 50.
Ja, man kan jo se det på stregkoden her. Der er et ur her.
Der er et ur der. Så får du sådan, og så finder du det næste ur. Lad os se.
Så vi rammer rigtigt her. Vi skal videre herfra. Nu er der ikke mere, man kan snappe her. Så hvis det er et 7-tal, så er det række 7.
Ja, det er ikke helt rigtigt. Det er også derfor, det er lidt forvirrende.
Nu er der lige mig, Mikkel, her. Så skal jeg lige... nu ser jeg lige her, hvad nummeren de siger. Men den starter med 0 nemlig. Så 71, eller hvad? Er det mere korrekt?
Hvad skal jeg sige? Det
er ja, det er sgu mere korrekt. Ja, nu har jeg dem selv. Jeg kan sgu hurtigt få et lærerjob herude. Jamen nu... Jeg skal
lige have tid til at tænke. Ja, vi stresser ikke.
Ja.
Der var den.
Der var den sgu. Hold nu kæft, mand. Nu er jeg ud og lige ud. Så det,
ja, den skal faktisk ud igen lige om lidt, for lige skal du ned i kassen. Så det er fint. Vores gamle kasse, som egentlig var et lækkert produkt, og så sagde vi, at der var plastik i, og det ville vi ikke. Så vi lavede sammen med en dansk virksomhed et produkt, som er fuldt recyclet. Altså så alt er lavet. Det var faktisk den her, der var sværest. Ja. Alt er lavet i pap. Og så tænkte, og det er faktisk dyrere end vores gamle.
Det er ligesom McDonald's papsugerør.
Lige præcis.
Ja. Alt skal være pap nu.
Og det er det samme, fordi så tænkte vi, det bliver kunderne glade for. Og de synes måske ikke, nogen synes ikke, det var det fedeste i verden der. Ja. Så vi synes jo, det var det fedeste i verden, at det var miljørigtigt. Og det er miljørigtigt.
Men det er der jo mange, der synes. Men det er jo lidt en blanding. Der er også nogen, de er pisse ligeglade.
Jamen, nogen vil jo også bare gerne have den der lækre boks. Ja. Og det kan jeg godt forstå, at det er jo faktisk dyrere for os. Så den kæmper vi lidt med den her i dag. Ja. Hvor jeg siger, jeg tror, vi holder fast i det, men jeg kan godt...
Kan I ikke lave 2 options på jeres hjemmeside, hvor du kan vælge recycle box, eller du kan vælge den anden?
Vi overvejer faktisk at lave netop det, og så sige, du kan selv fravælge. Okay, fint, jeg vil ikke have recycle, jeg vil have den anden. Eller helt sige, så lad være at sende en boks til mig. Så send ud og forsvarligt uden en boks. Ja. Og så sparer vi helt.
Så fraskriver du bare.
Ja, okay, præcis. At vi giver dig en lille udfordring her. Igen.
Jeg pakker ikke min egen julegave,
jeg tror ikke, jeg siger mere nu, og så vil jeg bare sige, lad os få ordrene afsted, og så se, hvordan det går.
Jeg er sådan en type, jeg pakker ikke engang min egen julegave, det får jeg butikken til hver gang.
Det er også, det er også svært at pakke ordentligt ind.
Ja. Jamen jeg tænker, at de her små nogle, de skal deri, eller hvad? Så må man gøre sådan her, så der det her, det skal over. Op der, få den til at sidde her.
Det ser ret godt ud, det der.
10 sekunder.
Det herinde, det er det, vi kalder vareudlevering.
Udlevering. Det er der, de kommer og henter det.
Der kommer de henter dem, så kører de porten op her, og så kommer, det kunne være GLS, eller det kunne også være PostNord, eller det kunne være Instabox her. Så er der pakke til Instabox. Lad os håbe, han bliver glad for det. 2 disse uger. I hvert fald så har vi fået set læreren nu. Det er lidt hjertet af forretning. Det ser i hvert fald som en af de absolut vigtigste dele. Vi skal hoppe ovenpå, du kan se, der er også snart
frokost. Jeg er også sulten.
Men det er faktisk også, så det kan være, vi skal have det lige om lidt.
Ja.
Okay, Mark, vi holdt jo det her TikTok-møde, hvor vi brainstormer på TikToks, og der kom vi faktisk til at tænke på, at vi skulle prøve at starte et spor. Vi har haft det, hvor vi prøver at ødelægge uger. Ja. Jeg har fundet sådan et godt, solidt dissing diver frem her. Ja. Og det er så det, vi starter nu, og der er du lov, du vil køre over med din 2 tons tunge Tesla.
Yes.
Så jeg tænker, at vi hopper udenfor, og så får jeg jo så faktisk en mikrofon, og så laver jeg en video med dig, så vi laver den rigtigt.
Så vi laver 2 videoer på en gang nu?
Ja, det gør vi egentlig. Vi skider ikke spilde tiden. Vi skal få noget for hånden og få gang i tingene. Så lad os ud og så få gang i den Tesla.
Det glæder mig til.
Så er det tid til at se, om vi kan smadre et dissing diver, det her ur med safirglas. Og til at smadre det, der har jeg altså Mark inde i den blå Tesla her, 2 tons bil, har du sagt?
Yes.
Tror du kan ramme det?
100%.
2 ton dissing diver. Ej. Oj, hvad skete der? Altså man kan sige, at det der sker, det er, at vinken her, den bliver simpelthen bukket. Den kan man så faktisk ret nemt sætte på igen. Men man skal lige have en ny stift. Men glasset, det er lidt det, vi vurderer det på. Der er lidt skrammer og sådan noget, men er det ikke bare støv? Det er faktisk bare støv.
Det holder okay.
Det holder faktisk meget fint.
Ja.
Skriv, hvad I synes, vi skal gøre ved det fra nu af. En 2 tons Tesla, det var ikke nok. Så hvad synes I, vi skal gøre for at ødelægge det dissing diver?
Mikkel, nu står vi her med golfkøller i hånden. Og jeg har simpelthen helt lokale til at skyde med golfkugler. Hvad går det ud på? Hvorfor har I det?
Jamen, af flere årsager. 1, jeg spiller selv golf, det kan Kasper også, og jeg er lidt bedre end ham i øvrigt. 2, vi er rigtig mange, der spiller golf ude, og jeg synes, det var meget sjovt at bygge eller lave en golfsimulator herovre, hvor man kan komme over og slå det slag. Jeg kan lægge ud, så du lige får en fornemmelse. Du siger jo, at du har spillet meget golf igennem din tid, ikke?
Ja, minigolf, ja.
Ja. Så der er en pind heroppe. Det er 105 meter.
Ja.
Den foreslår en pitching wedge. Det er den, du har. Det er den, der står lidt kortere. Så har jeg taget en 48 grader, det vil sige, at jeg kommer lidt. Jeg tror, jeg har lidt mere power end dig. Og så svinger du tilbage og igennem bolden.
Og det er, ja.
Det er
sådan her, eller hvad?
Ja, altså jeg vil sige, sådan golfsvinget består jo af, at du har modbolden her midt i dine ben.
Ja.
Og så har du første trin, det er at komme lidt tilbage, og så længere tilbage. Og så vil jeg sige, så hænder meget om hofterne. Så skal du dreje ind i den.
Ja.
Yes, det bliver rigtig godt, det der.
Det bliver overhovedet ikke godt, men...
Ej, det er skidt det der faktisk. Er det 100 meter? Det er det hele handler om. Det er 106. Ja. Du bestod på den der, selvom det er virkelig dårligt slag. Det kan være, at jeg ikke skulle have haft den her jakke på. Det blev sådan helt...
Ja. Er det sådan her, eller hvad? Skal man... Okay.
Der er kun en måde at lære det på.
Fuck, mand. Okay.
Det er jo fint. Fint. Der er lidt til 100.
Jeg bliver sgu ikke ansat hos dit ord.
Ja. Så prøver vi at skifte den her.
Ja.
Til en med noget mere power. Ja, det er da godt være 100. Flyv! Det er ikke det. Altså, kan du føle, der sker noget?
Ja, der er mere power i den her.
Det er 56 meter.
Okay, giv mig lige en til.
Ja, den er der. Den er der.
Ja! Kom nu, mand.
Du er ansat.
Jeg er ansat. Let's go.
Det er den længste ansættelsesproces, vi har haft.
Nej, det tog jo ikke så lang tid. Ja, jamen jeg er ikke særlig god til golf. Nå, Mikkel, så har vi lige spillet lidt golf. Det var sgu hyggeligt.
Det var meget sjovt, og det er det handler om. Lige få koblet lidt fra.
Ja. Hvad skal vi nu?
Ja, jamen, jeg har faktisk fået et møde i kalenderen, og sådan er det nogle gange. Altså, så jeg har fået det møde i kalenderen sent i går, så jeg ikke har noget at fortælle dig om det, men jeg har et møde på 1,5 times tid nu her, som du desværre ikke får lov til at være en del af.
Jeg kan ikke være med til det.
Og sådan er det nogle gange. Der sker nogle gange nogle ting, hvor så har jeg lige nogle ting, som ikke kan komme med på YouTube. Men jeg tror, at du her i huset kan hygge dig lidt i 1,5 time, og så mødes vi igen bagefter.
Så kan jeg udforske det lidt. Hvad så, chef? Hvad så? Gik mødet godt?
Ja, det gjorde det da. Hvad står du her for?
Jeg står her ved for dig.
Hvorfor?
Fordi at jeg er da spændt på dit møde. Hvem var det med?
Men det kan jeg ikke sige. Ja, hvorfor står du og venter? Altså, du skulle da bare hygge dig.
Nej, men det har taget lidt tid jo.
Ja,
jeg er spændt.
For det ikke skal vi er faktisk på vej for sent til et andet møde. Jeg har et andet møde, du får lov til at komme med til, og så snakker vi ikke mere om det møde. Vi tager et nyt møde.
Nå.
Det er den her vej.
Så længe du fik lavet millioner, Mikkel, så er det fint. Jeg kan bedre lide hemmelige møder. Det er det, der er spændende.
Det hele kan ikke være noget, du kan med til.
Nå, men hvad skal vi nu så?
Det vi skal, Mark, det er,
Five,
Mads og jeg, vi sidder med
four,
det, vi kalder
three,
own brands. På dansk
two,
alle egne brands.
one.
Ja. Og faktisk alt egen produktion. Vi har også Laura med. Hun har ansvaret for alle vores own brands, men hun er på ferie.
Okay, ja.
Så det betyder ikke, at det stopper her.
Hvis jeg lige må spørge lidt flabet ind.
Ja.
Hvor får I lavet de her uger henne?
Godt spørgsmål. Så du kan se for eksempel både det ur og det ur masser på her, de er på samme fabrik. Det er en mere high-end fabrik, det her i Hongkong, så en del af Kina, kan man sige. Selve materialerne varierer mere, så selve hjertet i uret, altså selve urværket, er i næsten alle tilfælde enten lavet i Japan, og Japan er sådan en kvalitetsstempel faktisk, eller i Schweiz.
Okay. Mikkel, dengang jeg var sponsoreret af jer, så var der et gennemgående spørgsmål, jeg fik mange gange. Og jeg anede ikke, hvad jeg skulle svare på det, og jeg var sådan lidt, det vil jeg ikke svare på, det skal du svare på. Og det var der mange, der mente, måske ikke lige dem her, fordi de er jo helt nye, men der var nogen, der sagde, at det var en direkte kopi af det Rolex lavede. Mange af de uger, der var. Og det er jo mange år siden, det var i 2020 det her, ikke?
Det er faktisk et spørgsmål, vi ofte får.
Ja.
Det her vil jeg kalde, de uger vi lige sidder her med, vil jeg kalde mere originale uger. Det er masser på, kunne man måske godt argumentere for at kunne have nogle tendenser til et submariner, og så alligevel ikke, for der er tal og det ene og andet. Der er ingen tvivl om den måde, vi bygger det op på. Altså, så massen sagde, at nu er vi foran markedet. Hvis vi prøver at opfinde en dyb tallerken og tænke ud af boksen, lave noget originalt, noget vi selv har fundet på, det er vi faktisk ikke super gode til. Andre gange så går vi ind og kigger på vores kæmpe database af mere end 200.000 solgte ure hver eneste år, og siger, hvad sælger derude? Så kan det være, at Hugo Boss de har lavet et ur, som vi kan se, okay, det der Boss-ur, det sælger fandme som varmt brød. Det kan godt være, at det så ligner et Rolex, vi har lavet vores Dissing MK9, som den hedder, ligner et Boss-ur, som vi faktisk fandt ud af på bagkant, lignede et Rolex Daytona. Det vidste vi faktisk ikke dengang. Nej. Men det vi bare må konstatere er, at der er en stor efterspørgsel efter de her gamle klassiske designs, og det er rigtig svært for folk selv at få råd til det, så de vil gerne have noget, der ligner det, uden at være det. Så hvorfor laver vi det? Hvorfor går vi ind og laver noget, som ligner et gammelt Rolex-ur, fordi der er en kæmpe efterspørgsel efter, og folk gerne vil have det? Ja. Er det på nogen som helst måde lovligt? Nej, det er fuldstændig lovligt. Designet er ikke patenteret, det er et gammelt design, og du må ikke lukrere på andres brandrettigheder. Så jeg må ikke for eksempel skrive i en annonce, Mark Tange elsker vores ure, uden at han aftale med dig, fordi det kunne misforstås, og man kunne tro, at du, selvom det så var en anden, der hed Mark Tange, så må jeg faktisk stadig ikke gøre det. Så vil jeg lukrere på dit brand, dine rettigheder. Okay.
Men Mikkel, du er en ualmindelig god sælger. Har du taget nogle kurser i at sælge? Har du læst nogle bøger om at sælge? Ja. Hvordan er du blevet god til det?
Jeg tror, og det er måske lidt flabet sagt, lidt arrogant sagt, men der ligger jo sådan, enten så er man god sælger, så er man ikke. Og så kan man selvfølgelig arbejde med at løfte sig selv op og tilegne sig nogle evner ved at læse bøger eller tage kurser. Det har jeg aldrig gjort, men jeg har altid arbejdet med salg. Ja. Og det her er jo også salg. Altså, jeg flytter stadig ikke varer. Det har jeg gjort lige så lang tid, jeg skal huske at sidde som i Kona-forsikring, hvor jeg sad og bookede møder, hvor jeg ringte til og sagde, hej Mark, har du en bil? Siger du, ja. Er den dyr forsikring? Siger du, ja, lidt måske. Siger jeg, skal vi ikke give dig tilbud på den? Så jeg har altid haft salg, og har altid synes, det vigtigste, jeg vil sige, er nok, jeg synes, det er mega sjovt. Og så når du synes, det er sjovt, så bliver du også god til det.
Hvad vil du sige er det vigtigste i salg? Altså hvis man skal være god til at sælge, fordi det er jo mange, der prøver nu, kan jeg se blandt unge iværksættere, de vil også blive bedre til salg. Hvad er det vigtigste?
Ultimativt altid at skabe behov. Ja. Skabe behovet, og så arbejde med det. Ja. Hvis jeg skulle have dig til at tage bilforsikring, så vil jeg skabe behov for, og ligesom, at du kunne se, okay, der var mulighed for at spare penge her, og simpelthen skabe behov for at få tjekket din forsikring igennem nærmest en lyst til at spare på det. Så jeg vil sige, jamen, okay, du siger, du giver 7.000. Hvad hvis jeg sagde, at jeg tror godt, den kunne gå ned i 5.000, 2.000 kroner om måneden? Det er jo, altså, det kan du bestille vold 10 gange om måneden. Ja. Det er meget lækkert, vil det ikke det? Jo. Hvis det eneste, jeg siger til dig, du skal bruge på vold 10 gange om måneden, det var at lige bruge en time sammen med Inge Merete, der er din lokale maler, meget flink dame. Hun kommer ud til dig en time, kop kaffe, hun tager den selv med, og så kan du få vold 10 gange om måneden. Har du tid på tirsdag kl. 10, eller vil det passe onsdag kl. 17?
Det er meget hurtigt og konstant, men altså, det er også bare sådan lidt take it or leave it-agtigt.
Nej, det er klart et forhastet forløb. Man kan føle mig, at det handler om at skabe et eller andet behov, og så det behov, det kan så blive, okay, jamen, han har sgu da egentlig ret 2 kroner om måneden, det er faktisk meget.
Find problemet, og så skal du komme med løsning, ikke?
Præcis. Ja. Men når alt kommer til alt, så er det jo mere bare det, hvis man synes, det er sjovt at gøre det i folks tempo. Altså, vi må aldrig presse noget ned i halsen på nogen, eller der er nogen, der skal føle, at de kommer derfra med en ubehagelig oplevelse. Nej. Det har jeg alle prøvet, ikke? Det der med at ind i forretninger, så føler man bare, den der person vil bare have, at jeg skulle købe et eller andet. Ja. Det må aldrig ske. Når det er sagt, så kan jeg rigtig godt lide vores varer, og jeg har en person for at sælge, og det kan man nok godt mærke.
Ja, altså nu er jeg jo på ingen måde uekspert, men hvis jeg skulle vælge noget af alt det her, jeg synes, der er fedest, de tre her, er klart mine favoritter, hvis jeg skulle vælge noget.
Det er et rigtig godt bud.
Ja.
Ligesom hele markedet.
Ej, det vil jeg nok have frem. Jeg vil nok, altså, hvis jeg skal fremvælge en, så skulle være den der, og så de to, vi ender med.
Men det her kunne godt blive en bestseller, fordi folk, det er faktisk meget fedt det der med at have to farver, så både har guld og stål, så sådan, det kan bruges lidt til alt.
Jeg tror også, det er mig med guldur, ikke?
Sort, ikke? Altså.
Ja. Jamen drenge, tak for fedt møde. Det var sgu fedt, og jeg blev en del klogere, vil jeg sige, på jeres verden og forretningsmodeller, og det tror jeg da også seeren, de gjorde.
Det håber jeg.
Så vi har jo noget paddle, vi skal...
Ship with a little makeup, you wanted to. How does get the away the ship? You wanted to. Why'd you leave the kids up on the table? You wanted to. I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die. Wake up! Wake up!
Here's another drug delivery. Why is your camera quality so good?
$5,000 camera.
A $5,000 camera.
Yeah.
Huh. You also spent $5,000 on those fake ass abs.
This one is 6 black men versus 1 secret white guy.
Black. I'm black. I'm black. I'm black. I'm black. I'm black.
Watch almost. All right. After this, chat. After this, pinky promise. Pinky promise.
White.
Ooh. What? Okay. Whoa. This dude got some seasoning to him. This dude got some seasoning to him, chat.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the name of our dark master, for the Lich King, you will die.
Actually, I don't.
Sometimes they be doing I wish I could dab it. Wait, what type force is that? So I got the Air Force. Oh, I see what you said. I did use them. No cap, I used to work for Steam. My strategy for today is to figure out which thing to try to do.
I'm voting this nigga. I'm voting him out.
Then when they got drunker,
This nigga winning! Bro, keeping the more cookouts than all these niggas combined. This nigga is winning.
I'll pop up and name it again.
I'm gonna bitch ass. Bitch. Bro, this is like I must not be black because I don't know what the fuck that is. What the hell was that? What the hell was that actually, Chad?
But like, me growing up half black, half white, there's
It's an OG show? Wayne brother? They had a show? Bro, chat, I'm not gonna lie, I just
You are hopelessly outnumbered. Lay down Frostmourne and I will grant you a just death.
The Nerubians built an empire beneath the frozen wastes of Lothran. An empire that you so foolishly built your structures upon. My empire souls of your fallen
The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at $20, but for some reason they come up at $16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for $20. But for $16 for
5,
both? That is
4,
a whole
3,
new level of
2,
crazy. So definitely
1.
check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is a whole new level of crazy. So definitely check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is a whole new level of crazy. So definitely check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is a whole new level of crazy. So definitely check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs of these. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is a whole new level of crazy. So definitely check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is a whole new level of crazy. So definitely check these out. You will not regret picking up a couple packs. The best Home Depot deal that you can get right now on a fastback Milwaukee knife. These pair of utility knife blades were being sold for $16. That's right. 2-pack of these is $16. They were marked at 20, but for some reason they come up at 16. So if you have a Home Depot in your area, make sure you go check this out, because the Fastback 6-in-1 is one of the best items I've ever found for 20. But for $16 for both, that is
It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male there weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy fan knocked on the door, and he had a gun.
Is he saying my name? Doing a fucking podcast, my friend. Get out of here.
You should have seen the women. They all completely changed. Go, 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 go. Where's the feminists? Shut up! For a war, right? It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male there weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy fan knocked on the door, and he had a gun.
Is he saying my name?
seen the women, they all completely changed. Go, 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 go. Where's the feminists? Shut up! For the war, right? It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male that are weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy fan knocked on the door, and he had a gun.
You saying my name? Do a fucking podcast, my friend. Get out of here.
You should have seen the women, they all completely changed. Go, 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 go. Where's the feminists? Shut up! For the war, right? It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male that are weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy fan knocked on the door, and he had a gun.
You saying my name? Do a fucking podcast, my friend. Get out of here.
You should have seen the women, they all completely changed. Go, 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 go. Where's the feminists? Shut up! For the war, right? It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male that are weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy fan knocked on the door, and he had a gun.
You saying my name? Do a fucking podcast, my friend. Get out of here.
You should have seen the women, they all completely changed. Go, 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 go. Where's the feminists? Shut up! For the war, right? It's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls.
I don't need a man. There's male that are weaker than me. Look how big I am.
And some crazy
I spit on the ground.
Bro, there's no way you're real,
Greetings, YouTube. You don't know me, I don't know me, he doesn't know me, she doesn't know me, but trust me, you will know me.
To be successful online, you need to be a little bit crazy. Sprinkle in a dash of charisma, and you might just make it. And the thing about being crazy is it's a large and big spectrum, right? People who are chaotic and can't control their own emotions or mentality versus people who know exactly what they're doing and then they use their madness for their own gain. Such as Logan Paul down here. Very charismatic, probably narcissistic guy. Wants to be the richest dude in the world, or like The Rock, or whatever the fuck he says. And then you got like people all the way down at the farthest end of the spectrum, like the guy who made Temple OS. And then you kind of scoot along the line, you go back a little more towards the humanity, and you get King Cobra and all that kind of stuff. And then you end up somewhere in the middle with FouseyTube.
Wake up, y'all. Wake up.
And FouseyTube is interesting because since I heard about him back in like 2015, that motherfucker sprints from one end and back all the time. He can't control whether he's shaping his career or the highs of his own success drive him down into a spiraling typhoon of manic episodes and, you know, new age free thinking and all kinds of shit. It's pretty wild. But today I just want to talk about FouseyTube because I think there's an interesting message to learn from all this. And I think with some of the recent events that have been going on, I think it'd be interesting to talk about, because if you haven't known, for the last 6 weeks FouseyTube has been streaming successfully. Massive success. He was on the H3 podcast, got a huge boost from that, and now he's been living high up in the clouds of streaming, you know, getting to meet with the Island Boys. Jack Doherty, I don't know who that is. It's like a millionaire. It's like he looks like he's 8 and he owns a mansion in LA. That's how you know the world's fair. Aiden Ross, Sneeko, and all kinds of people. It's been a kind of a crazy return, but immediately he saw it's been a downfall since then. I've been seeing some thumbnails pop up of, you know, the cataclysmic failure of his rise. And if you don't know who FouseyTube is, he was a prankster back in like 2013, and then it was like a big crazy thing when people found out, wait, what? The people he's pranking are actors? What? It was such a naive and simple time on YouTube back then. And, you know, he did that one, there was that one funny prank that my mom showed me on Facebook one time, which was he dresses up like Sub-Zero and scares people in an elevator. It's awesome. It's a good one. It's a really good one. But it's been highs and lows because he would do that. His career kind of took a nosedive when the controversy of, you know, him paying actors to prank came out. He decided to go homeless as a social experiment. That didn't go over well. Then he tattooed a bunch of fake hair on his head, took time off YouTube, said that he's never been better. And the interesting thing, the pattern that I'm seeing is that you fail really hard, you eat a big piece of humble pie, as soon as fame, money, and attention comes his way, it completely corrupts him. It's like Ouroboros. It's the snake that's eating its own tail perpetually forever. But at the end of the day, has he done anything as crazy as on that spectrum as like Chris Chan? No. Or the Temple OS guy, you know? Do I think he's as insane as him? Absolutely not. And with FouseyTube, I think there's any way that the internet can reciprocate love or hatred in a way that doesn't always end up in the circle of big, massive amounts of attention leading into money back down to huge pitfalls. Which some of the things, like I said, he got started with the last 6 weeks. So let's talk about some of the stuff that he's done in the last 6 weeks. One, he ate that big humble piece of pie. Went on the H3 podcast, talked about how he was kind of a doofus back in the day. People like that.
You were being a problem already.
Very. You could see in my eyes. That's not saying eyes.
I like how he talks bad about himself.
He's a good guy.
Man, when you're able to laugh at yourself, you're a great person.
And then like a week later, he meets a woman in the airport and he's having a fun time in there. And then you find out that the woman was sex trafficked. And then he ends up coming back and saying that he had sex with the woman in a bathroom.
So I got sold into the sex trade.
You got sold in the sex trade? I actually care about this shit because I'm like an advocate for like against sex trading and all that shit. I'm shameful to the girls who I like did stuff with that were like sex trafficked. I just joined the Mile High Club. That's on everything I love. I just joined the Mile High Club in the airport. And I lost one of my headphones, so we're good at the end of the day.
Now, personally, in a week's time, that's a big step. That's a big step to where I'm like, I bet the humble thing is kind of a bit of a calculated response, knowing that people know what you want to hear to get ahead. Am I being kind of pessimistic? Absolutely. But when you see it time and time again from a person, it's just like, it's so obvious. He's in his car getting picked up from the airport. There's a part where like this girl he's with she's like gonna puke and shit or something like that, she says in the car, and he left that in. I thought that was kind of weird.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, I'm going to throw up. I need to pee. Can I just run in here really quick?
Okay.
But he basically addresses how he was a sex addict at some time, yada, yada, yada. He takes accountability, eats another piece of humble pie. Skip like another week. Here he is in the mansion with the Island Boys, and he's walking down a freeway. It's like, and he's talking, he's boasting about how successful and popular he is. He's already failed once. I can't keep possibly failing. And then it does time and time again. Like I said, he met up with Jack Doherty, this fucking, like, looks like he's like 8. He's a young guy. He's a young rich guy in LA, owns a mansion. Fousey, like, slaps him. He's, like, berating him in this kid's house.
My cock is 9 inches deep through your skull.
Why don't you have a seat right over there?
A lot of weird shit, like really petty, stupid stuff. And it doesn't fall on me that this is all for clicks and attention and he's boosting things up. Like, it's all exaggerated. It's all, like, fabricated to keep them viewers up, baby. You got to get them subs. You got to get them donos, dude. You got to appease that kick contract. I get it. You can see this episode spiraling. I mean, like, he ends up doing a 24-hour stream for the next month, which even I think Sneeko and some of his other buddies were like, that's a really bad idea. I think he lasted 2 days before he had a manic episode. And then he had that mental that he stood on top of that car and there was a mob of people around him and he was just screaming at him.
I wanted to kill myself because of all the attention you gave me.
Complete and total mental breakdown. And then after that, he takes a year off from the internet. Everything in his life is good. I'm a better person. And, you know, his events with the mansion thing, him on the highway, him streaming left and right, ended up resulting in him sitting in a hotel room, faking a hostage situation, talking to like this weird stalker on the phone, talking about how they're both gonna like meet up and kill each other because that's cool. Getting dragged off, and now we're here. We're at this current moment where guy's probably in a psych ward, has mental evaluations, and if I had to guess, if I had to be oracle or a fortune teller, I'm gonna assume he comes back and says, I mean, I don't really know what I was doing. Honestly, I need to like be better about what I'm doing with my life. I gotta like check myself more. That's not the Fuzi that I want people to know. That's not me.
You could see in my eyes. That's not saying eyes. Like I was drunk.
A couple little things coming from the perspective of another YouTuber, another hit viral YouTuber like myself.
We're getting the rap signal now.
Good, we're done anyways. Yep. What do you have next?
This is it, and then I'm home. My kid's out of milk, so I gotta get home.
So we need to rap is the text that I got.
We need to rap so you can go home?
She needs to pump. Oh, no, me? Right now? Who said that?
She's got to
I
pump.
thought you were saying
our people.
Your
so I'm
people.
assuming your people.
No, your
telling
people are pressuring our people to be like, we got to
Well,
rap.
my person's right here, so she can
Our
be
people
the...
definitely couldn't have been like, we had to rap.
Oh, I thought you said, I was like, okay, I'm going.
No, that's why I asked. That's why I was like,
I
what
was
do you
like-
have next? I'm gonna assume that you were late for like the Tonight Show.
What time
or
is
something.
it? Is it like, I have a flight. Oh, no, okay, tonight I have a flight.
So why would it be better if we kicked you out and then it's on us?
I don't
So
know.
that you don't
yeah,
hate it?
Yeah, why don't you leave?
You don't want to...
I guess you can go. I guess you can
leave.
get out of here.
We really appreciate you coming in. You're super
appreciate you
talented,
having
so I'm
me.
glad you
Thank
came in. We
you.
can
Yeah, you're awesome to
Nice
watch.
but you're out.
But get off the set.
That's
Yeah.
probably better.
We're getting the rap signal now.
Good, we're done anyways. What do you have next?
This is it, and then I'm home. My kid's out of milk, so I gotta get home.
So we need to rap is the text that I got.
We need to rap so you can go home.
needs to
Oh,
pump.
no, me? Right now? Who said that?
She's gotta
I thought
pump.
you were saying...
Our people.
Your
So I'm
people.
assuming your people.
No, your
telling our
people are pressuring our people to be like, we got to
Well,
rap.
my person's right here, so she can
Our
be
people
the...
definitely couldn't have been like, we had to rap.
Oh, I thought you said, I was like, okay, I'm going.
No, that's why I asked. That's why I was
Oh,
like,
I was
what do you
like-
have next? I'm gonna assume that you were late for like the Tonight Show.
What time
or
is
something.
it? Is it like, I have a flight.
2:50.
Oh, no, okay, tonight I have a flight.
So why would it be better if we kicked you out and then it's on us?
I don't
So that you
know.
don't
Yeah.
hate it?
Yeah, why don't you leave?
If you don't want to...
I guess you can go. I guess you can
leave.
get out of here.
We really appreciate you coming
I
in. You're super
appreciate you
talented,
having
so
me.
I'm glad you came in. We can
Yeah, you're awesome to
Nice
watch.
but you're out.
But get off the set.
That's
Yeah.
probably better.
rap signal now.
Good, we were done anyways. What do you have next?
At 25, what's dating like?
Don't do it. It's scary out there.
Why do you say that?
I have a kid, so my last relationship obviously hasn't been great, but I don't know.
Do you think having a kid has hurt your chances of finding a partner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, at least she's honest about that.
Last person that he told me he wanted a relationship, but like a few months in, he was
The pump and dump.
it's like, just kidding. Like, I'm not mature enough to be with a woman that has a kid.
And how old was he?
26.
Yeah, way
Do you
too young.
feel like he was mature enough?
I thought, but I wasn't asking him to like raise my child, him to date me.
What were your expectations in the long term?
Eventually, you'd meet my daughter. But
Oh, yeah, the old bait and switch. Yeah, man, he's way too young for that. And you shouldn't put the expectations on a man like that or that type of responsibility.
At 25, what's dating like?
don't do it. It's scary out there.
Why do you say that?
I have a kid. So my last relationship obviously hasn't been great, but I don't know.
Do you think having a kid has hurt your chances of finding a partner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, at least she's honest about that.
Last person that he told me he wanted a relationship, but like a few months in, he was
The pump and dump.
it's like, just kidding. Like, I'm not mature enough to be with a woman that has a kid.
And how old was he?
26.
Yeah, way
Do you
too young.
feel like he was mature enough?
I thought, but I wasn't asking him to like raise my child, him to date me.
What were your expectations in the long term?
Eventually, you'd meet my daughter. But
Oh, yeah, the old bait and switch. Yeah, man, he's way too young for that. And you shouldn't put the expectations on a man like that or that type of responsibility.
At 25, what's dating like?
don't do it. It's scary out there.
Why do you say that?
I have a kid. So my last relationship obviously hasn't been great, but I don't know.
Do you think having a kid has hurt your chances of finding a partner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, at least she's honest about that.
Last person that he told me he wanted a relationship, but like a few months in, he was
The pump and dump.
it's like, just kidding. Like, I'm not mature enough to be with a woman that has a kid.
And how old was he?
26.
Yeah, way
Do you
too young.
feel like he was mature enough?
I thought, but I wasn't asking him to like raise my child, him to date me.
What were your expectations in the long term?
Eventually, you'd meet my daughter. But
Oh, yeah, the old bait and switch. Yeah, man, he's way too young for that. And you shouldn't put the expectations on a man like that or that type of responsibility.
At 25, what's dating like?
don't do it. It's scary out there.
Why do you say that?
I have a kid. So my last relationship obviously hasn't been great, but
How much money do you make?
I don't know.
You gotta have an idea.
I have a money guy. When I first signed him 15 years ago, I go, I don't want to know how much money I have. I don't want to live in a world where I'm like always looking at my bank account, worried and this and that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I pay for my mortgage. I don't know what I pay for my car.
Wow.
I don't know what insurance costs. I don't know what my light utility costs. All that's taken care of.
Every bill?
Every bill. Phone bill. I don't even know where to go to do it.
You curious?
No. Because if the numbers are really low, I'll
Yeah.
just be depressed and I'll start panicking.
Sure.
I go, I need to do more. But if you don't know, then you just kind of I just live my life. Like I asked my money guy, I go, how long can I not work until I run out of money?
Yeah.
And he goes, a long, long time.
How much money do you make?
I don't know.
You gotta have an idea.
I have a money guy.
All right. Hey, we ran your plate, and it's coming back to Mercedes. All right.
No, it didn't.
It did.
How much you want to bet on that?
Hey, buddy. I'm just trying to get your driver's license, registration.
I know, but
proof of
you're
insurance.
lying to me.
I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, you are.
I ran it.
You ran it?
I ran it.
You
Okay.
know I'm recording this.
Oh, hey, that's okay, sir. That's absolutely right.
'Cause
Officer
I'm-
5-4 service. Reason why I stopped you today, for your camera. Reason why I stopped you today, I ran your plate. Came out to Mercedes. Okay.
Can you read what's on my plate right now?
Yes, it's Ohio. It's John Edward David 6214.
Jet
Okay.
6214.
Yep, that's
I
what
bet
I
it comes
ran.
out to a 2008 Mercury Mariner. I can pull it up on my
No,
phone.
it
right
comes
now.
out. It came out to Mercedes.
Mercedes what?
Mercedes. Okay, that's all I know. Sir, I'm not here to argue with you. I just need your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. All right. Look, you can FOIA the catalogs with dispatch if you want to hear that.
No, what I'm saying is like, you turned around and got on my ass. I figured you probably thought I was brightlighting you because the next car thought I was too, but I wasn't.
All right, hey, we ran your plate, and it's come back to Mercedes, all right?
No, it didn't.
It did.
How much you want to bet on that?
Hey, buddy, I'm just trying to get your driver's license, registration.
I know, but
proof of
you're
insurance.
lying to me.
I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, you are.
I ran it.
You ran it?
I ran it.
You
Okay.
know I'm recording this.
Oh, hey, that's okay, sir. That's absolutely right. Officer 5-4 service. Reason why I stopped you today, for your camera. Reason why I stopped you today.
I've dad.
All right, hey, we ran your plate, and it's come back to Mercedes, all right?
No, it didn't.
It did.
How much you want to bet on that?
Hey.
I've debt actually.
You have debt? How much debt do you have?
Right now I have like $20,000 of debt.
That sucks. Is that from school or is that from...
No, from my podcast.
Oh, for your podcast? What'd you
Yeah.
borrow money for?
I didn't, well, I borrowed it from the bank to, like, I put it on a credit card. Just every episode that I film, I spend a lot of money on.
Wow.
I haven't made any
Why
money.
don't you come to me and like investors instead of having to borrow?
Because I wanted to have full ownership of it myself. So
See, look at you. Let's mic up on that. It's scary when you borrow money to start a business, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah, usually I tell people not to, and it's better just to like start slow.
Mhm.
But it takes a lot of guts to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe in my podcast, so I'm trying my best. I have debt actually.
You have debt? How much debt do you have?
Right now I have like $20,000 of debt.
That sucks. Is that from school or is that
I-
Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Huh? Tell me who is it?
Troy, you been with black women before? You have? And you with a white girl. What's the difference? We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Where the fuck is Tate? Yo, Tate, come on, bro. I can't wait till he gets on this pod because that's the first thing I'm gonna ask him about.
Oh, easy, bro. What the
Andrew, come on.
Hey, yo, what, are you
Bro,
out of your
come on.
mind?
Hey, who gives a fuck?
We're in his crib, bro.
don't give a
Show some
fuck. He said
respect.
come here at 10.
Don't be
It's
Mr.
fucking-
Alpha when he comes on here. You're gonna be a
10:33,
bitch.
dude.
Guarantee you're alpha right now. When he sits down, you're gonna fucking be a
you
pussy.
think I'm not gonna ask him why the fuck he wasn't here for the last 34 minutes? I'm gonna ask him.
$500 right now.
Oh, bet me.
All right, fine.
Bro, can I have a iced coffee? Actually, no, a hot coffee. Give me a black coffee and a sparkling water. Suspects. Little fucker.
Where the fuck is Tate?
Good news, bro. I want to see if these are authenticated.
Oh no, where'd you get them?
You see the bag right here?
For Wasteland? How much you pay?
A little bit of nothing.
A little bit of nothing?
Oh, I forgot what I paid for them.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I can't tell you all that. I
Some
just wanna
lunch
know
money?
if they're real.
Yeah, nah.
I think they're real, bro. I think they're real.
No, they
I-
look real, but the thing
they are real.
No, they look real. They look real. But here's the thing. I got a specific
Oh, no,
test.
no, you do your thing.
Nah.
I'm excited right now.
Let me show them how they're real.
So how they real?
So the real ones sound like a watermelon, and the fake ones usually sound like a coconut.
These is cool kicks.
It's watermelons
You know
only,
this guy
baby.
right here?
Watermelons only around here, baby.
These is real, B. Good news, bro. I want to see if these are authenticated.
Oh no, where'd you get them?
You see the bag right here?
For Wasteland? How much you pay?
A little bit of nothing.
A little bit of nothing?
Oh, I forgot what I paid for them.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I can't tell you all that. I
Some
just wanna
lunch
know
money?
if they're real.
Yeah, nah.
I think they're real, bro. I think they're real.
No, they
I-
look real, but the thing.
Oh, they are real.
No, they look real. They look real. But here's the thing. I got a specific
Oh, no,
test.
no, you do your thing.
Nah.
I'm excited right now.
Let me show them how they're real.
So how they real?
So the real ones sound like a watermelon, and the fake ones usually sound like a coconut.
These is cool kicks.
It's watermelons
You know
only,
this guy
baby.
right here?
Watermelons only around here, baby.
These is real, B. Good news, bro. I want to see if these are authenticated.
Oh no, where'd you get them?
You see the bag right here?
For Wasteland?
Alright.
Good news, bro.
Alright. What we doing? Got a wood board. Get your claw hand.
New tool love here.
Did he just use that as a hammer? The backside of it? Do not do that. Oh my lord, he's lucky. That could have been bad. Ain't no way. Alright, what we doing?
This is my favorite Adam Sandler story. You were at NYU.
Why do you care if two gay guys want to get married?
The idea is not that I care deeply whether two gay guys want to get married to each other. The idea is that
do I prefer traditional marriage to same-sex marriage?
Okay, well, let me phrase it this way. What do you think a gay guy is? Do you think they're making a choice, or do you think that this is how they were born?
So the religious point of view on this, and I think this is actually just the general conservative point of view on human action generally, is I don't know, meaning that for the vast majority of people, I would assume that they have a biological drive to engage in that behavior, but the traditional sort of will point of view is that biological drive does not necessarily match up to the activity you ought to engage in. Right? Men, for example, have a biological drive to impregnate many women. That's not something religion is cool with either.
Why do you care if two gay guys want to get married?
The idea is not that I care deeply whether two gay guys want to get married to each other. The idea is that do I prefer traditional marriage to same-sex marriage?
Okay, well, let me phrase it this way. What do you think a gay guy is? Do you think they're making a choice, or do you think that this is how they were born?
So the religious point of view on this, and I think this is actually just the general conservative point of view on human action generally, is I don't know, meaning that for the vast majority of people, I would assume that they have a biological drive to engage in that behavior, but the traditional sort of will point of view is that biological drive does not necessarily match up to the activity you ought to engage in. Right? Men, for example, have a biological drive to impregnate many women. That's not something religion is cool with either.
Why do you care if two gay guys want to get married?
The idea is not that I care deeply.
I went to the Apple store with